It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. Mary Jo Foley's here. So are the barbarians at the gate. They've got pitchforks. They've got torches. They're howling for blood. Why? Because Microsoft keeps messing with Edge. We'll also find out why Satya Nadella just sold half of his Microsoft stock. Mary Jo Foley has the reason. Plus, questions from the audience. We've got some good ones. It's all coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 753. Recorded Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. Buy now, pay later. This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Eset. Nobody wants their organization to be patient zero in a cyber attack. Right now, Eset Protect Complete is 20% off, and you can try it before you buy it. Get your free Eset business trial and an interactive demo at business.eset.com/twit. And by Melissa. The U.S. Postal Service processes more than 98,000 address changes every day. Is your customer contact data up to date? Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox. In fact, to get started, you can get 1,000 records cleaned for free today at melissa.com/twit. And by ITProTV. Start or advance your IT career with the wonderful instructors at ITProTV. Visit itpro.tv/windows for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription. Just use the code WW30 at checkout. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show we cover the latest news from Microsoft with all about Microsoft's Mary Jo Foley. Hello, Mary Jo.
Hello, Leo.
Happy Wednesday after Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
If that's a holiday. Actually,
It's a holiday now.
Sure, first day of December.
It's called Fracking Day.
Fracking Day. It's the day we pump water underneath our turkeys in an attempt to find gas. That's Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com. We are going to talk tech with Paul and Mary Jo. And we should say at the beginning of this show, at the very, very outset, there's hardly anything to talk about. I'm paraphrasing.
Pretty much.
Actually, the first item I'm going to have many things to say about, but we are going to open up the line. So if you're a Club Twit member in the Discord, head to the special room we've just created called Open Mic, M-I-C. And if you're in the IRC, irc.twit.tv, and of course everybody can go there, we'll take your textual questions, and I will hire a trained announcer to read those for you. And I promise not to use my nerd voice. So in a few minutes, we will be opening up the lines for caller number 3. Before we do that, though, I suspect you and Mary Jo may want to talk about something we're calling Edgegate.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to say, when Microsoft announced that they were going to put a buy now, pay later engine into my Edge,
Yep.
I finally said, that's enough.
Yeah.
This must end.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I this is one of the rare things I was kind of on board early with. 2 weeks ago, I wrote about this. Now that it has finally appeared in the stable version of Edge, the whole world has woken up to it. It's been reported everywhere. And I mean, not just tech publications like the Register, Ars Technica, Gizmodo, et cetera, but also the BBC, mainstream publications too.
Yeah, because of course, when Windows 11, they kind of force you to use Edge unless you are willing to take extreme unction.
These are the two things. I'm glad you mentioned that. These two things to me are tied together. So Windows 11 makes it much harder to switch from Edge to another browser. In some cases, impossible. People have figured out workarounds, and Microsoft said, "No, we're going to stop those workarounds. This is how we want it to work." And now Edge, which I don't know how long ago was it? 2-3 years ago this month that they announced that they were switching Edge to Chromium. Spent the last couple of years developing it. Obviously, when a product is new, you have to spend a bunch of time adding new features to it, getting it up to par with the market leader, in this case, Google Chrome. And then also adding back some of those most used features from Legacy Edge that people still really like. And fully support this notion of a version of Chrome that has all the Google stuff stripped out of it, and you use a Microsoft account in the back end, or now an AAD account, is very compelling to me as a Microsoft guy. I guess it would be. But the thing we've seen over the past year, especially, and probably for longer than that, is just this kind of featureitis setting in, the teamsification, if you will, of Microsoft Edge. And a lot of this stuff is superfluous nonsense, is what it is. And there's some indication that this buy now, pay later may, in fact, literally be malicious and have serious problems. It's not a Microsoft service. It's a third-party service.
Wait a minute. It's not even a Microsoft service. They just said to some third party, go ahead, put your crap in our browser. What the hell?
So here's, okay, you have to forgive me for not remembering which publication did this, but Microsoft in its blog post said, we don't get like a kickback on all of the buy now, pay later sale. Like if you buy something that's $1,000, Microsoft doesn't get like $1 on the back end or something. What they didn't say though was, oh, but we do get paid in other ways. Like they're getting paid for this. So one publication actually asked them, well, okay, but are you getting paid in other ways? And they said, yeah, we don't have any comment on that.
Oh, in other words, yes.
Oh. Right. So this is a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah.
And you hate to see something good become something bad. I hate to see it happen so quickly too. I mean,
I know.
So.
Today I shut off all shopping in Edge because I got a couple deals from having it. Like it would find a coupon or say, you know. But now I have to shut it off because there's so many intrusive things like rewards are coming up and this price trends over the past month. And
have you seen this one? I got one that said you can print out coupons on paper from this site.
Oh, wow.
Did you really?
Now we're talking.
Yeah. If you go to Target.com, you'll see that.
Now that I'm 65, I think I'm going to print out all my coupons and bring them
yes, exactly.
to Denny's in the store.
Put them in an envelope.
So, is it possible to turn this off in such a way that it's really not there? Like they're not collecting data? It doesn't bother you? Is it like an extension? Can you remove it?
It's not an extension, right? It's like built in.
Yeah, it's built in. Well, like shopping features are built in. You can toggle these things off. Right. The problem is...
What's next? Payday loans?
You got to
crying out loud.
That's so I in a private conversation with Raphael, that's what I compared it to. We had gone to this town called Reading, Pennsylvania. Most places in Pennsylvania are pretty, even if they're a little downtrodden. Reading is not one of those places. It's like the one place we went to. It was like there were 4 Bell's Bondsman store like storefronts in one block, and then payday loan places.
Tells you something about Reading right there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but. It used to have, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's on the way out. But, Microsoft Edge has turned into the Reading, Pennsylvania browsers. It's sad.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
There's their new marketing slogan.
I don't know who should be more insulted by that, Reading or Microsoft. Wow.
By the way, if you Google Reading, Pennsylvania, you'll find that the top searches are, is Reading, Pennsylvania the poorest place in the United States? Is Reading, Pennsylvania the ugliest city? Like this.
Did it used to be a steel town? What was it? What happened?
It wasn't
to
a
Reading?
steel town.
It was a mill town?
Yeah, it was something else. I don't remember. Or maybe it was a steel town. It was something like that. It was it was one of those towns that had, I think it was just a nexus. By the way, Reading, now that we're on that subject, Reading, Pennsylvania is the Reading Railroad of...
Yes. It was a railroad town.
Monopoly?
No, it used to be a big railroad thing. Yeah. So Reading, the railroad
coal
was...
Yeah. Transporting anthracite coal from the Pennsylvania coal region
using trains,
to the eastern United States. Yep. On the Reading Railroad.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't steel for some reason. But so Reading eventually was sold, and that train conglomerate is gone. Anyway, there's nothing there anymore. There's a nice theater where you can see a concert, and there's a good little Irish restaurant. But mostly, there's not a lot going on there. Anyway, let's get off of Reading. I don't mean to insult Reading, but it's
a nice town. They just gone through a tough time.
Yeah, they are the 20th century. So,
exactly. Back in 1825, when they finished the Schuylkill Canal, man, things were happening.
Civil War days, that place was
hot,
bopping. Yeah. Anywho, I don't even remember what I was talking about. So,
well, you were just saying the Edge is turning into the Reading, PA of browsers, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a bail bondsman on every corner now.
Exactly. So here's the thing. The argument I would make, and I have made actually, would be that if Microsoft wants to add this functionality to its browser, it should consider, well, they should be extensions. And if they're extensions, they can be brought to any browser. So if this is a useful feature that someone might want, they might want it even if they're using Chrome, or whatever. The other approach, and this is the thing I think I brought up 2 weeks ago when this first came up, was, you could have a screen right in the beginning that says, hey, Edge offers all this great functionality. Which of these do you want? They could all be on by default, but you could, before you even open the browser, you could say, no, I don't want shopping. No, I don't want buy now, pay later. No, I don't want whatever. And of course, Microsoft would never do what I just described. It's trying to, get you to use these services. But I think when you clutter a thing up, a product in this case or whatever, with too much junk, people eventually just get irritated by it and they go away. It's like the way the widgets interface in Windows 11 was like that. It's, we joked about Halle Berry a couple of weeks ago or whatever. Like, there's just too much stuff about bikinis and women in short skirts and blah, blah. And it's like, how many times do I have to tell you I don't want to see this? And apparently the answer is infinite times because it never really goes away. And I just turned it off, and I think a lot of people have that reaction. So it's kind of the opposite of what Microsoft was shooting for.
Do you think they've turned into the poorest company on the internet, and maybe they just need the money now? And
you mean the biggest company in the world?
No,
that's what makes this weird.
It's all about ads and Bing, isn't it? I mean, that's what this point comes back to every single time. They want to become a bigger advertising presence. That's what they want to do.
Stop it. Is this so now it's Google envy. By the way, Apple's doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I was literally just thinking this exact thing. That's exactly right. Microsoft has long suffered from a case of Apple envy, and obviously they suffer from Google envy as well. It's understandable. I mean, this is, Google, it's understandable, but it's still terrible, and someone mature should say no. I mean, Google, I don't remember the exact number, but every quarter I look at their earnings statement, and every quarter advertising is some 80-something% of their revenues. And if the advertising didn't exist, neither would Google. All those enterprise services, all the search, well, not search, I guess, but all, the photos, the Android, everything they do, none of it could exist. The only thing that makes money there is advertising. It's an advertising company. Even if Microsoft made 10% of what Google does on ads, it would be a huge advertising company.
It would.
And I know they look at consumer-facing products like Windows and Edge and whatever else, and they say, how can we strip mine this as much as we can? Not to beat the Reading, Pennsylvania thing to death, but they started adding advertising to Windows back in 2012 with Windows 8. And it's a slippery slope.
I never found those ads that offensive because I never even noticed them. Like you noticed them a lot more than I noticed them. This is a whole other thing because when you're using Edge and you're on a shopping site, it's not like a little thing shows up a small ticker. It comes down and it takes up like a third of my screen, right? I'm like, I can't even see what I'm doing.
It's not so much that I noticed them, 9 years ago or whatever. It's that I became aware of them. And my appraisal at the time was, you don't make these little incursions and stop. You keep going, and it gets worse and worse over time. Samsung found itself in some hot water over the last year. People spend $1,300 on a new Note or a new S1 21 Ultra or whatever it is, and their apps have ads in them. Samsung's apps, I mean. So the Samsung feed, whatever that piece of junk is called, has ads all over the place in it. And a lot of users were like, what are you doing? We paid a lot of money for this product, Now, in Microsoft's case, by the way, those ads are gone, right? So Samsung finally woke up. In Microsoft's case, I'm sure someone will make the point or argue that, well, you just got Windows 11 for free. What are you complaining about? Well, I can get Chrome for free too, or Brave, or Firefox, or whatever. And look, none of these browsers are perfect. They all have whatever issues they have, but this is just so in your face and so awful. There's a Pluto TV ad in the What's New in Edge screen that comes up when you upgrade the browser. I
mean, Pluto's fine, but why? I don't want that.
Exactly. Why would you diminish this product like this? It just doesn't make any sense.
No, and we heard, Paul and I got a note on Twitter the other day from somebody who said when he clicks on the new tabs page in Edge, it shows your most frequently used apps along that the bottom of that page. He's now seeing apps he's never used show up in that list.
Oh, so they're selling that real estate too.
Right. I'm
Well, they
like,
do.
wait.
Well, they do the same thing in Windows, right? So if you open the Windows
Yeah.
11 Start menu,
Yeah.
you'll see icons for things like Spotify or PixArt.
Yeah. Disney
I'd have to
Plus,
think about
all the things you don't
whatever
even
they are.
have, right?
You don't even have them. So they're just stubs, and those are basically advertising spots. So you click on that, the store launches, and then you can install it. Thank God it doesn't just auto install. Well, actually, maybe it does auto install. I think it goes to the store, but it's just these little. I think it's, aside from just the general terribleness of such things, it's the sly way they do it. Because I think a lot of average users would click on a Spotify icon and think, well, maybe I installed that.
I know.
And
I just saw TikTok on mine. I'm like, did I install TikTok? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
no, they do this in Windows 10 as well. It's
So I guess then we must ask the meta question. Why? And I think the answer is because you don't have any. So what? I mean, I left Windows a long time ago for Linux just because I can't take this. Yeah. Right. And I think Microsoft's attitude is, well, most people use Windows because they have to, and too bad. Which is
I don't think that's how PR would describe it.
No, but that's sad. Well, clearly, that's what's going on.
Yeah, and also that assuming normal people won't understand that they cannot not have to have it.
Oh,
that
yeah.
way, right?
That's a key part of the strategy. That people don't understand they have other choices.
You mean other operating
turn
systems?
things off.
Yeah. Or no.
Well, or
And
other browsers, or other,
right.
or whatever.
Or even just to do what we just were saying, click on the icon that you see and get rid of it, right? And they don't even know. They're like, oh, I guess I have that app. I didn't
but
know
other
I
stuff
had that.
pops up. I mean, there really isn't a way to remediate it. I think they must assume either one of two things: normal people don't care, or normal people have no choice.
Right.
And that's part of what, you mentioned this earlier, Leo, this system they have in Windows 11 of making it very hard or now impossible to switch default browsers is designed to thwart the next level of people, because there are people who do know. There are people who want another browser. And in Windows 10, you could install, Chrome or Firefox or whatever. It would try to make you stay on Edge, but if you click no, and off you went, and everything would go through that browser. So in Windows 11, they said, well, let's be a little sneaky, and we'll make it really hard. So if you really want to use Chrome, you got to sit there tediously and go through a giant list of document types and protocols and whatnot. And even then, they're going to slyly run Edge in the background, access MSN, access Bing. Because it's all part of a churn where they're trying to generate revenues in kind of a googly fashion, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah. Have you? I meant to ask you this, Paul. Have you done anything like a cheat sheet for people who get Windows 11 and just to kind of warn them, like if you want to use Chrome, here's what you need to select when you're setting this up.
All right, so two things. I wrote an article very early on about the default app thing with browsers and explained what you had to do to make that happen. Now, and I also have written about things like Edge Deflector, and the problem is in some coming version of Windows 11, whether it's something that ships midstream or next fall or whatever it is, they're going to literally bypass that stuff. That's terrible. The other issue is the book, right? So I'm sure some people, I'm sort of working on a Windows 11 book. Where is it? Well, part of the problem is Windows 11 shipped in October in a very incomplete state, and I don't want to just keep updating this over and over and over again. So I'm trying to wait in some ways to see how this kind of thing kind of clears out. I'm expecting and hoping, maybe is the wrong word, but before next fall, sometime in the spring or something, there'll be like a cumulative update that adds a bunch of stuff and makes some changes. Maybe this browser stuff will change, whatever it is. But some of the things I wrestle with are there are ways to get around installing Windows 11 on unsupported hardware. And now this browser thing has entered that same area. Is this something I should be covering in the book? And I think the answer has to be yes. I have to.
Yeah.
But the problem is Microsoft keeps changing the rules,
Yeah.
I don't, we had this conversation maybe August, September timeframe, whatever it was. What if I install Windows 11 on a 7th generation Intel processor or whatever? And my answer at the time would have been, look, they're never going to stop giving you security updates. That's insane. But then since then, you see some of the things they've done, some of the things they've said. And you're like, I don't know. I think it's all up for grabs. I don't know that we can trust these guys to do the right thing in any instance. And to Leo's point, you have to go to why. Well, why? Why? This company used to be I'm talking like 2 weeks ago, the shining light in big tech, right? The one big tech company you could kind of trust, and they've been that way for a while. And I feel like, at least on the client side, they're kind of eating away at that trust by doing things like this. It's too bad.
Somebody in the Discord made a point. JT said, for a contrarian point of view, I'd rather see these Windows 11 ads than for Microsoft to go back to charging $100 for Windows. We're getting Windows for free now. Is that why
we always got Windows? No, we always got Windows for free. So the issue was, people used to buy more computers, right? Or more computers were sold.
That's how you would get your next version of Windows. You'd buy.
People were not buying. People. Yeah. No one was. I mean, I don't mean no one literally, but people were not going into a Best Buy, buying a box, bringing it home, and installing it. Yeah, that didn't really happen that much. Not since like Windows 95. I mean, the instances in which something like that happened, I think it was probably a linear line down to nothing since then. But here's the thing: like, if Microsoft decided to give away Windows 11, right? This wasn't in response to user feedback or anything. Like, Microsoft didn't come out and say, look, we could charge $50 for it, or you'll get this thing that's full of crap, where junk you don't need. We're going to clog up internet or Microsoft Edge. You can choose between. They didn't give us a choice. This was their business strategy. I mean, I think they understood that if they relied on people to get this with new computers, or charged individuals $50 a pop or whatever the number might be, that no one would do it, that the uptake would be a lot slower. So that was their decision. I think by and large, most people weren't paying for Windows per se. I mean, it was included in the cost of the computer you purchased for sure.
Yeah.
So the savings were.
Yeah, but it wasn't $100 more, or maybe it was. I don't know.
Whatever. Who knows? I mean, Microsoft charged a certain price per license, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the Discord saying, I remember paying $159 to upgrade, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, there was a time when that was a thing, right?
But people didn't do that for sure. For the most part.
No, you guys did it. We did it. We're in the
we're the weirdos.
The people
we're tech enthusiasts.
The people listening to the show did it, right?
Yeah.
Nope. I've never did that. I never had purchased an upgrade ever.
Oh, interesting.
I used to purchase multiple versions just so I could write about the experience.
Yeah, you had to.
Because I had
part
to.
Of the deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I stayed on it as long as my PC still worked, and it was fine. I never felt the need to get the new version.
Right. That's a curiously normal outlook on life, Mary Jo.
It is, right?
So that must be
That's why I'm here to balance the perspectives. Right?
Balance the crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't believe that Microsoft thinks about it the way we're talking about it. Like, because we make this free now, we can do whatever we want to junk up the operating system. I don't think they think that, now we can offset the cost by showing you ads. I don't think that's why they're doing it. I think the reason they're doing it is to try to build up Bing advertising and usage of the Bing and search engine, right? I don't think it's because that makes them money by doing that. They're hoping somewhere down the line, if they have enough people using and seeing Bing ads, that it will offset the cost, right?
But you have to. I agree. I think you're right. But not you, Mary Jo. I'm sorry. Microsoft has to balance the impact of the user experience on the user experience when they make these changes. Yeah. It's incredible to me. Like, I keep bringing this up. We have they're off the record conversations, I guess they're called. Not attributable to a specific Microsoft spokesperson, right? Well, they'll tell us stuff. We talk and they say things, and you come away feeling pretty good about it. But when Windows 11 was coming out in early October, someone, not me or you, someone brought up from another publication, I don't remember who it was, the issue we were all wondering about, which was this unsupported thing, and what are you going to do? And someone brought up default apps and how complicated it was. They were shocked to discover that we thought this was malicious. No, we're good people. We'll look into that. Don't worry, we're going to fix it. And then a couple of weeks go by, or a month or whatever it was, and then they're like, no, we're doing that on purpose. and we're going to make it worse. So thanks for bringing it up. They actually went on record and said something like that. I mean, that's just a paraphrase, obviously, but it's depressing. Look, Mary Jo and I have covered Microsoft for what feels like 100 years between us, and there are obviously periods of time, big, huge swaths of time, where this was a pretty terrible company, And I went through some awful moments during the antitrust stuff. The more you learn about their business practices in the 1990s, I mean, the less you want to have anything to do with this company. So there's been some ups and downs. But I feel like the last several years, we'll call it the Satya Nadella era or whatever, has been largely positive. Not just from a Wall Street, cloud computing perspective, but just that Microsoft seems like a good corporate citizen. They say all the right things about recycling and the environment and climate change, and their data centers are going to be run net zero and blah, 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 whatever. And great, and they're not as terrible as Apple or Amazon or Facebook or Google. They're not. But man, they're trying real hard to be that terrible, aren't they? It just feels like that.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm very curious if this, it's not like a groundswell of a pushback or like people all coming out publicly and saying, okay, that's it, I'm not going to use Edge. But I'm curious if this negative publicity does have any impact or doesn't, or if they just go, you know what, most people aren't going to care or know how to fix this and we're just going forward. That's too bad. Too bad, everybody.
Just from a usability standpoint, the two sides of the coin here, I guess, are that most people don't move between different computers anyway, and they don't upgrade often. So when I complain that you have to go in and manually turn these things off, whether we're talking about something in Windows 11, like the stupid buttons that are on the taskbar by default, or whether I'm talking about these new features in Edge, most of which, like I said, are superfluous and useless for most people. So you have to turn them off. Big deal. Like, what am I complaining about exactly? I mean, you can turn them off, But again, I always go back to the slippery slope thing from Windows 8 and the advertising. This is just the beginning, You got to understand that they don't get to a point and stop. We're not going to hit January or February and they're like, oh, we're done adding features to Edge. This is just something that continues. And at some point, it becomes like that College Humor ad about I designed Windows 7 or whatever that was, where it's like this robot that fires panda bears or whatever, that stupid thing. Because everyone had a little bit of an input and every idea went in, and it becomes this kind of kitchen sink thing. And I already don't like where it is now. It's already not that thing they promised 2 or 3 years ago, and it's only going to get worse. So yeah, you're right. I agree. Most people, my wife, normal people like you or your mother or whatever, they're probably not going to be like, whatever, if they use Edge, they don't care. But they're going to reach a point where that's not the case. And that reminds me of Windows 8. And I remember my good friend called me, got a new computer, and we never talked about Windows. We never talked about computers. He says, how do I get rid of this thing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, Windows 8, it's terrible. He said, how do I go back to Windows 7? I'm like, did you buy this thing on a new computer? And he's like, yeah. I said, you can't. And he's like, I'm returning this. This is not even slightly usable. And don't you kind of feel like that's where Edge is heading?
I'm hoping
where it will
not
impact normal people.
That bad.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it already is that bad. I already don't want to use it. And that's terrible. I was so excited for this product.
Yeah. The shopping stuff, I at first was like, oh, you know what? I didn't think I would like this or use it. And then I did, and it saved me money. But now that they're adding more and more and more stuff and things are just popping up all over the place, I'm like, wait a minute. Now I can't even have it on at all because there's too many things popping up all the time. And I can't even go to like the cart checkout of my cart because the banner's covering the checkout thing. Right?
Oh my
and I'm
God,
like, I don't want to see it.
It's just terrible.
Yeah, so I just shut it off today. I'm like, oh well, maybe it would have saved me a little money, but it's so intrusive.
At least you can shut it
terrible.
off. I mean, thank goodness you can do that.
I don't know how much of this it'll shut off. I'm curious because I unclicked the shopping stuff, but I'm like, I bet some of this is still going to show up.
Well, I hope you're still doing Microsoft Rewards, Mary Jo, because you get like $1 in Xbox credit every 50 years or whatever.
Thing, I'm like, I'm not even in Bing Rewards. Why am I even seeing this? Right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Not good. Not a good experience. Like you guys who care about user experience at Microsoft and care about Fluent, you should care about this.
I'm sure
equally.
They're complaining. I bet.
I hope the
you're
Edge team is
actually.
complaining.
Internally,
I hope they are.
I'm sure there's tons of complaints, but whoever is
I hope
doing
so.
this obviously has more
The marketing
clout.
people. Yeah.
And they're getting
Well, and
it in.
also, there's probably a corporate onus for this business to make money in new ways and to fit into this kind of cloud model. And it's like you said, Mary Jo, not to be malicious necessarily, but how do we drive more revenue through, Bing and MSN and all that kind of stuff? And, I don't know that anyone really sat back and thought, well, are we ruining this thing when we do this? I mean, is the it's very easy to look at some kind of Microsoft loves telemetry, and they can say, hey, Bing traffic was up 11% last month because of Windows 11, which is never going to happen, but whatever. And you can look at that and say, see, we did it. But what you don't see are the people who walked away from Windows forever, right? Because they're never going to contact you and tell you they did it. They're just going to drift away. And, 5 years is going to go by, and you're going to be like, hey, congratulations, Bing traffic is up 11%, but now you don't have any Windows users, out in the world. I mean, you're going to have businesses, I guess, for a long time. But it's just, I just don't think I think when you're too data-driven, you don't see the human side of it well enough.
Agree.
Or at all.
Agree. Yep. Yeah, just I haven't gotten one of these in a couple weeks, but I kept getting the pop-up that said, do you want to change your search engine to Bing, or don't use Microsoft recommended settings? That pop-up that comes up sometimes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. By the way, so you get that when you upgrade Edge.
Yeah.
And that itself is a deceptive kind of a dialogue.
It is. The wording of it is very tricky and very deceptive, right?
Well, by the way, here's only one of the things that will happen, because it's innocuous, right? You kind of look at it and you think, well, yeah, maybe the Microsoft knows best. They're smart. They've good security and everything. It takes you several minutes to go through that entire list of even if you could figure it out, if somehow you even knew what you were doing, it takes a long time to go through and change every document type, every protocol, whatever. But if you agree to that thing, it's all gone in one click. Yeah, because you can do it. They can do it quickly, but it takes you forever to put it back. So if you make that mistake, most people would never even know they did it. And that's the point, and that's what makes it terrible. It's literally designed to deceive.
Yep.
It's too bad.
It's a dark pattern. That's what we call it.
It is. It's not good.
Yeah, it's evil by design. That's what it is.
There's another reason besides the fact that your users hate it. They've got now, and the chairman of the FCC, Lena Khan, who is not only savvy, but is aggressively taken on big tech. And one of the things they've even said we're going to take on is dark patterns. I don't think the prior FTC even knew what that meant. So,
no, I don't, and I don't think Microsoft is number one on the list either. But
but it could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
I don't know. Yeah. Look, we talked about this stuff, antitrust, whatever. I mean, what is it? 1.5 or 1.3 billion, whatever the figure is. I think Windows 10 is 1.3, and the overall thing is 1.5, something like that. It's a big audience, and it's a big enough audience that this product probably needs to be regulated or oversaw in some way. It doesn't mean, there's a department of the government that controls it. I don't mean it like that. But it impacts enough people that it needs to be part of regulatory oversight, even if it just means reviewing what they're doing regularly.
I don't know. I don't know what to say.
It's hard.
Take a break. We'll come back. Don't forget, we are going to open the lines to questions. People are getting their microphones ready, powdering their nose, getting ready for their appearance.
And if you want to say, Paul, you ignorant, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, feedback on this topic for sure. This is a chance to vent.
Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe you like Microsoft Rewards. You got a lot of shopping discounts.
There are people who do.
You took advantage of buy now, pay later.
But that's why your answer, which is to make it an extension and let people choose it, is exactly the right answer.
Yes.
I mean, in some ways, just advertising that this exists would put it in front of more people and would probably get some usage. Like people might not know there's
Lisa
a Honey plugin
loves
or whatever.
Honey. She, the check from Rakuten comes in, and she says, she waves it in my face. She says, "See."
Yeah. Well, we take advantage. We get cash back from Costco. We do stuff like this. So, I mean, it's.
But give me the choice, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Give me if you're going to spy on me, give me the choice.
Yeah.
Spy or no spy?
Our show today brought to you by our friends at Eset, the global leaders in cybersecurity. One of the things I really appreciate about Eset is their commitment to research. They put out a threat report 3 times a year. Eset's threat report is a 40-page plus report. It's free. You can download it right now at welivesecurity.com. Search for threat report. Great stuff. Whether you're an IT pro or just somebody who's kind of interested, a tourist, it's fascinating stats, lots of interesting insights on topics like info stealers and ransomware and stalkerware. It's a great way to keep up with what's going on and what's coming down the pipe. This is why Eset does this. It's a good thing to do. They've got the research team, but they're always looking for the next threat, and that's really the important thing. It's easy for most security endpoint security solutions to find the last year's threat, and believe me, they're still around. So you got to do it. But the thing you should be worried about, any business should be worried about, is the next threat, the one no one knows about, the 0 day that's about to hit, about to come in over the transom as an email attachment. The answer to this is Eset's dynamic threat defense. So clever. This is brilliant. What they do is when they see something coming in, they use their cloud-based sandboxing technology to detect and isolate new and never-before-seen types of threats. They just assume and this is the right thing, it's called zero trust. You just assume everything coming in is a threat. But so before they pass it along and let you open it, they open it not on your network, in their sandbox, and they analyze it. This includes documents as well as scripts and installers, of course, executable files. It identifies and isolates suspicious materials, runs them in a safe sandboxed environment. They do code analysis, deep inspection of the sample, and within minutes, using machine learning, in-memory analysis, AI, Eset's dynamic threat defense enables behavior-based detection and allows or blocks a file like that. This is what you want. It's proactive. It's not reactive. You want somebody thinking ahead. And you need that kind of speed. And this is Eset's motto all along: no demands on your system resources. And this is something endpoint protection just can't do. Now, you don't want to be patient zero in a cyber attack. Most of these now are 0 days. If you're looking for world-class ransomware protection, use what we use right here. Russell's put Eset on all of our machines. You're going to want Eset's dynamic threat defense. It's included in Eset's Protect Complete, which is, by the way, a great deal right now, 20% off. You'll get endpoint security. You'll get full disk encryption. That's nice. You'll also get advanced security for Microsoft 365 to close the gaps in native protection. And you get this dynamic threat defense, EDTD. And I think that's brilliant. It's part of Eset Protect Complete. Right now, 20% off. You could try before you buy. Get your free Eset business trial and an interactive demo at business.eset.com/twit. Please do go to that address so they know you saw it on Windows Weekly, because we want to get credit for it. Business.eset.com/twit, and you will get credit for 20% off. It's a limited time offer. Business.eset.com/twit. Thank you, Eset, for keeping us safe and for supporting Paul and Mary Jo and Windows Weekly. Let's see. Let me go back to the show notes. Speaking of Microsoft 365. By the way, are they putting these kinds of things in Teams? Do they put ads in Teams? Do they put buy now,
so Teams
pay later?
No, right?
No.
Well, no, but Teams is an enterprise product for the most part.
Right.
So to date, it's a feature of a subscription you're already paying for. But the thing we're about to talk about, no, not the thing. I'm sorry, that's not true. There's a Teams for consumers that's built into Windows 11. I don't think there's any reason to believe it won't happen, right? It's a free product, essentially.
I'm afraid to turn that on. I'm afraid to turn that on. I'm like,
Yep.
No, the first thing it says to you when you click on it is, do you want to open all your Skype contacts and your phone contacts to the app and have it?
Really
See, I don't like that in Skype either. Skype will say, "Hey, life would be easier if you just connected us with all of the contacts already on your device, whatever your phone or whatever." It's like,
I don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
No, like right now, my Skype is a very small subset of all my contacts and my phone numbers. Right. And it says right in the app, if you do use this consumer Teams, your email is visible in the client to anybody who gets it. So if you sync it with all your email contacts and all your phone contacts, everybody automatically has your email, right? Because it's out in your profile. Right. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, I guess I just feel squeamish about this Teams consumer thing. Plus, I don't know anyone else using it. I don't know anyone else using it, not even one person. So I guess.
I mean,
don't
most
see
people
why.
in our little industry have looked at it and said, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe it gets there. But I mean, as of today, I mean, if you want that kind of thing, I think Skype is still the better solution or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
No, then today they introduced something that I am a little bit surprised about, but I guess I shouldn't be. Here's a new version of Teams that is a standalone version of Teams, because that doesn't exist right now, right? Like the way you get Teams is you have a subscription to Microsoft services.
There is a free version of Teams.
Except for the free version, right?
Yeah.
But this is a paid version. It's $4 per user per month or $48 per year per user. Mm-hmm. It's for small and mid-sized businesses. It is called Team Essentials, and it has some decent features like support for up to 30-hour meetings. And as someone said to me today, who does a 30-hour meeting?
Well, you should join my company. I can tell you the Thursday meeting I have feels like it lasts 30 hours.
Okay, 30 hours. Meetings with up to 300 people, and everybody gets 10 gigs of cloud storage per user as part of it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have Google Calendar integration, quote, soon, in addition to Outlook Calendar integration. You get all the regular tools like Together Mode, Meeting Lobby. You're going to get a small business group chat template also coming soon, right? And I guess I was a little surprised they did this, but then someone else said to me, well, this is what they're doing to compete with Zoom. I was like,
okay, so I have an alternate theory about this.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I actually think a standalone version of Teams makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
Because it's grown enough that people will, want it legitimately. It's fine. But Teams is like the one Microsoft product that actually has started to receive some regulatory scrutiny, right?
There we go.
There have been complaints against it. Well, I mean, there have been from Slack.
I'm agreeing with you.
Right?
Yeah.
And one of the ways you can bypass that complaint, because the complaint literally is you're bundling it for free with this other thing, they can say, well, we'll just charge for it.
Yep.
And they're charging like nothing for it,
No, because when I looked at the Zoom plans, it doesn't really compare, right? If this is $4 per user per month, the Zoom has a free tier, but then they go to like $19 or $14.50 a month.
Yeah, it gets expensive. Right? Yeah, very quickly.
It does.
Yep.
It does. So I'm like, it's not really meant to head off Zoom that way, I don't think. I think you're right. I bet you are right that this is kind of to head off the Salesforce.
That's my theory.
/Slack.
The other interesting tidbit, by the way, in this announcement, I'm sure you saw this, but right at the very end, they said if you're an individual and you're paying for Microsoft 365 Family or Personal, you get all this stuff as part of your subscription. So it even kind of applies to like consumers.
All the features that they add back in. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. It is. Yeah, and then the other Teams related news this week is Loop, which is the thing that is largely Fluid Framework, and Fluid Framework rebranded plus a standalone app is starting to get integrated into Teams as they promised at Ignite. So you know how Loop has three components. They have components, pages, and workspaces. So what they're doing is taking the components piece of it, and they're starting to embed that into Teams chat. So you'll be able to do things like send tables, send tasks, lists, paragraphs to other people in the chat. And because it's automatically synced really fast, when you make a change in any of those pieces that are inside the Teams chat, it will update everywhere and be all in sync, in theory at least. So, yeah.
So, what do you think about experimenting with Loop as a potential replacement for OneNote?
I think we should try it.
I'll see if I have it yet.
Yeah. No, we're going to get it last just so we can't try it.
Wait a minute.
Right?
I thought you said Loop was the Fluid Framework.
It's Fluid Framework, but it's also a new app that is totally based on the Fluid Framework.
Note-taking app based on the Fluid Framework.
It's like a collaboration / project management kind of app.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what Notion is? It's just like
I use Notion.
Just exactly like Notion.
Oh, interesting.
Pretty much.
Well, exactly like Notion, but awesome, you mean?
Exactly like Notion, except not acknowledged by Microsoft.
We wanted to use
like
Notion for I think for iOS today. We did use it for a while. So yeah, we should look at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Loop.
I would consider that too.
Is there a web interface, or do I have to have Windows?
We have to go look at it. I don't know. I'm sure there is, honestly. I'm sure it's going to be web, native client, and then mobile as well.
I am not a fan of the word fluid.
Yeah. Well, that's why they went to
Fluid and fluent, right?
Fluent, okay, but fluid, I don't know. It's like moist. I don't want the moist in the face either. It's like.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. It's just one of those words.
It's moist like melted butter.
No, remember during Windows 8, everything was fast and fluid. Remember that was their tagline on everything, which I hated and I still hate. It's still.
By the way, the rest of the industry still uses this term. Apple's used it. Google's used it.
Yeah.
Fluid?
That's a thing. Yeah, fast and fluid.
Yes.
Fast and fluid.
Fast and fluid. Yep.
How about fast
I'm excited
and
about Fluid
furious?
Framework. I am I'm excited about this.
Good. Well, let's.
I'm interested in it.
Yeah. So when is that?
Because co-authoring is so terrible in OneNote, as we.
So the only problem with it is it's in the commercial SKU, and Mary Jo and I both have that account. That's fine.
Oh, I don't though. I'm not like a home user.
I suspect we could invite others. Well, I'm going to look at it. Is the point? So I also think a year from now or whatever, this will be coming to consumers as well.
You don't have to lie to me. I know this is what you've always wanted: is some way to keep me out.
Lock you out.
What we're going to do is we're going to print you the notes and then mail it to Petaluma.
Like
a coupon.
It's like a coupon. I can print it out.
Yeah. Put it in your envelope.
How exciting.
Yes.
I still, because I do the radio show, I still get snail mail, usually from older listeners.
Yeah.
This is always in a kind of a spidery cursive.
They don't even do it on a computer?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, that's amazing.
On postcards and stuff. That's cool.
I couldn't. My wrist is not strong enough to make it through a letter if I had to handwrite it.
Here's one. I think, I can show you this one. It's just, I don't know why it is. It's just like maybe they think they're going to, Leo Laporte,
Wow.
they're going to somehow get it through to me because the mailman brought it.
Yep. So you're sure to see it,
to pay
unlike
attention
email.
to it. Yeah.
And, well, they're keeping those people employed.
They're not wrong. Nice. I mean, I get a lot of email.
I know. Yeah.
Not wrong.
I look at print mail still way more thoroughly than I look at my email.
Yeah. Oh, the email. I've conditioned people to the notion that I just don't even answer email. So don't even try.
Yeah.
Don't even try.
Well, that's the problem is you get too much spam, and it's even legit emails don't look legit anymore after a while.
Nope.
I got spam this week from the Idaho Fish and Game advising me my license was ready for renewal, and I kept looking at it over and over. I'm like, wait, how did this even get through the spam filter?
It's probably malware, malicious, right?
I guess it would be.
That is amazing.
My personal email is a very common thing, so I get a ton of spam. And
me too. Yeah. I'm Laporte at Gmail. Boy, that's a good idea. What was I thinking?
Right.
I should have been Leo 389944. And I used my noggin, but I thought, oh no, I get my last name. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
Bad idea.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's talk about Windows.
Yeah, why not?
What about
This is a little good news. We've had kind of a downer news show so far.
Happy news. Let's get some happy news.
Yeah, this is
some happy news. You know, we've been complaining about the start menu, how it was very rigidly controlled in terms of what you could pin to it, how many rows you could pin to it. They're listening, and they're making some changes that are rolling out with today's test build for the dev channel. So now you're going to be able to pin more things to it, more pins, as they say. I'm like, okay, good. Sure. And also more recommendations. Now, you know, like when we were talking earlier in the show about the things that are in the list, and we always talk about why do they call it recommendations? Now we see why, because there are a lot of things in there that aren't really even apps that you have, right? There are things they are recommending you get or you try, but now you're going to be able to
recently added things.
Yeah, recently added things, but also things you don't even have and don't own and may never.
That sounds like an ad, but
it does. Now, the
That's
day
how I see the world.
Xbox and Halo show up on mine, I'll be like, guys, your recommendation engine is not working.
That day's 1 week away, Mary Jo.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so it's good. They're letting you start to make some modifications there. That's a good sign that they're listening, that people think it was too small, too rigid, and they're going to let you customize it a bit. The other thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about is the secondary monitor limitation, where you can't see the clock and the date on your secondary monitor when it's hooked up to Windows 11, and that they are starting to enable that now, so the clock and the date will show up on your secondary monitor.
So let me just dump on the start menu thing a little bit, because everything I see is negative.
Okay, good.
I'm glad they're making this change. They're letting you choose between layouts, right? So there's the stock layout where the pins and the recommended section are the same size. So depending on the height and resolution, all that could be like 2 or 3 rows of icons in each, whatever it is. So now they're going to have 2 other layouts. They're going to have one that's more pins, and which means fewer recommendations, and then they'll have one that's more recommendations and fewer pins. And that's fine. It's not particularly sophisticated, and it's not exactly what I was asking for. Right. In Windows 11. Right. What I would rather is, I don't mind, actually, I don't mind this. This can stay. This is a good idea. It's better than the 1.0 version of the start menu. Yeah. But what I'd like to see added to this is this notion that I choose whatever layout I choose, but then I go into the pin section and I want even fewer pins. I start manually deleting icons. Like the other section should just fill in the void. And right now it just leaves an empty space. So I don't know, maybe this will work that way. I don't know. We'll see. I haven't tried it yet, but it's a step in the right direction. It's crazy how unsophisticated the start menu is in Windows 11 today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's in the right direction. It's not exact. I don't think it's exactly what I was asking for, but
it's not. It's not exactly what you were asking for, but it's something. I'm just taking it as a win, right?
No,
it's
you're
still
right.
not.
Right. It's
still not
better.
the right click in the taskbar thing that everybody wants to come back.
Right. Well,
maybe that will come back though. Yeah.
$6, I think, is the cost.
Exactly.
Start 11 can fix a lot of problems.
It can.
Thank you, Brad Sams.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I think it predated Brad Sams.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's a few other kind of more minor things in today's build.
Yes, that's true.
One thing that I think people will like is if you turn on Bluetooth or Wi-Fi when you're in airplane mode, your machine now will remember that. So if you want to, listen to music on a plane or something, it won't make you redo that every single time when you're in airplane mode. So that's a nice little gesture, right?
Yep.
They're doing some things with notifications. So 3 high priority notifications will show up as stacked together. All together. I'm still struggling with the notifications part of Windows 11, I have to say.
I just don't feel it's because it's combined with the calendar and it doesn't make any sense.
It's so weird. No.
Yeah.
And then notifications sometimes show up there and sometimes don't, even though I've rechecked and checked my settings to make sure I have it set the right way. Sometimes things don't show up. Sometimes they do. And it's so not consistent that it makes me crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
I wanted to ask you though, Paul, and anyone else who's running Windows 11, I don't have Skype notifications working almost at all in my taskbar with Windows 11. It religiously worked with Windows 10. I would see how many unanswered Skype conversation. It doesn't even ever show up on Windows 11. It just doesn't even show up.
Yeah, I turned all that stuff off. I was getting the thing that's in Skype that always bugs me is you'll be having maybe you and I are chatting, and every single time you hit enter for a new character return or whatever, it makes a notification sound.
It does.
So I might be in another app doing something, and you're over there going bloop, 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 bloop. So the way that works is it works on a phone. You go in and you turn it off. So
I shut it off.
I turn off all Skype notifications, except for I think I see I guess the app highlight or the button highlights. I guess. But I don't see a little number. Is that what you mean? Like a number with a
the little number
or something?
Unread notifications.
I think that's not even there anymore.
On Mail, on the built-in Mail app, I see a number show up all the time of some made-up number. Right now I see 4, even though I have read all the mail in my inbox. I'm like, where's that 4
But if you open it and look at your inbox, it will disappear.
Yeah.
Like it's not
But
connected.
I've already read all of them, right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't know. Those little things kind of bug me. You know, I was saying even like the little underline underneath the apps in Windows 11 on the taskbar showing you that something is, you know, not closed. I'm like, why does that have to be there? That's just so annoying and weird.
In many ways, Teams has improved in this annoyance because Teams will also give you little notifications if someone chats with you. But sometimes the notification is in the activity view. And you have to manually navigate to it and clear it out by just viewing the thing, even though it's, you know, somebody mentioned you in a comment and you already read the comment, but you you didn't clear it out in activity. It's like, guys, why?
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't want to get off on a negative tangent. Because I think it's good what they're doing with the test build. It's and I don't know if you saw this in today's blog post. At the very end, I believe, it says some of these features that we're adding here are going to show up earlier than next release of Windows 11.
Yeah,
You're not
so
gonna have to
actually,
wait till the fall, right?
I've always kind of I've always suspected that. I feel like they said that at some point or whatever, but this has always been my expectation. The problem I have with the Insider program, one of the problems I have with the Insider program right now is it's not clear how or when those things will appear. And that's why every time we talk about this, I'll say something like, this will appear in the next version of Windows 11 or sometime in the coming months. And I mentioned the book and how I'm thinking about the spring. Like, I think a bunch of this stuff does appear January, February, whatever. And maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's twice a year or whatever. But I do expect a lot of the stuff that's being tested in the dev channel in particular to event. Well, I guess not in particular, but in the dev channel, these things they'll appear eventually. Yeah, and in many cases before the next release of Windows 11. I'm glad for that little bit of. Yeah, you know,
but I think the uncertainty is just they don't know which features they'll decide are baked enough to make it out before
and some,
the fall.
I guess some might not even make it, right? I mean, they
may not even show up. That's what the dev channel is.
A possibility, yeah. Right.
Yep.
Anyway, no, I did notice that. I'm glad they said that because I feel like that had been said in the past, but I'm not. I can't find it. You know what I mean? I feel like someone said it, but I haven't been able to find it. So anyway, that's good. Yeah, I agree. That's good.
Yep.
Oh wow, that was exciting.
You know, we're working out the week after Thanksgiving to find something
anything. Well, huge,
what do we got?
Huge news. Windows 11 now on a whopping 9% of PCs. Actually, that feels like a big number? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
There's no urgency.
It was close to right. They have opened the pipe a little bit more. That was a little mini announcement they made fairly recently. It was, I think it was 4.86. We'll call it 5% about a month ago. But actually, the one little detail, this is like one of those things that's obvious, like we've talked about this, but it is very interesting. AdDuplex said this is the first time in modern history where an older version of the OS has entered the market later than a newer one, right? Meaning Windows 11 21H2 shipped in October, Windows 10 21H2 shipped in November. And that's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah. So, you know, look, a lot of people always quibble with this data. It's based on a survey. I think in this case, it was 60 or 80,000 computers. Yeah, 60,000. You know, it's based on mobile app usage. It's fair to say a lot of people that use Windows never use these apps. And so, you know, what are we really measuring here? But until and unless Microsoft provides us with any data regarding Windows 11 adoption, and I don't know. I think they will eventually, but I don't think it's going to be like the beginning of Windows 10 where it was a real regular drumbeat. I mean, this just gives a little bit of insight into, you know, what we're seeing out in the world. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe is the real figure half that or something? You know, I don't know. Right. But if there are 1.3 billion Windows 10 computers, this is still a lot of computers.
No, and you know what complicates it is not every PC can get Windows 11.
Right. That's true. That's true.
Right. So it's not like just they're holding it back artificially. It's like a lot of people can't upgrade who want to.
And we don't even know what those numbers are. You know, it's not like Microsoft has never come out and said, hey, we're making it available to 17% of the Windows 10 computers. Right. Well, they'll never say that. You know, you'll never get that data.
Yep. Oh, well.
So there we are.
I was hoping we'd get more out of that piece, but okay. Maybe this will be the story of the day. The new paint is getting a update.
I'm glad this has come up because I need something to complain about. And I got to tell you.
You haven't had anything. Nothing at all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The new paint is terrible. It's terrible.
Paul says that as a user, and that's important.
I use paint every single day, and this stupid thing. First of all, it's only support. It's not just light mode. It's stark white. It is as white can be. So it's the brightest affront to your eyes imaginable. I use the computer in dark mode 24 hours a day. There is no dark mode in this thing. I don't understand releasing a modern version of an app and not supporting the thing your OS supports, but that's what Microsoft did. But the other thing it did was it screwed with some of the keyboard shortcuts. So there are things like Control E brings up like the size of the documents. You can change that. The Control W gives up the it's like skewing and changing the percentage of sizes and things. Those work fine. But Alt F usually doesn't work. Alt, if you haven't saved anything yet, or I guess if it's been saved, you can do Control S and that still works. But you can't do like Alt FA, which is save as, because the save as menu now has like a menu off the side with like types of documents you can save it as, and there's no keyboard shortcuts. It's like, guys, you're killing me here. Like I rely on these keyboard shortcuts to be efficient, and anyway. So they're testing a new update to Paint, and they didn't fix anything I just described, which is maddening to me. Instead, they have switched over some of the dialogues to the new Windows 11 style. So actually, let me bring up Paint. Watch my face light up, by the way, when this happens.
Now I know how we could have got. You don't need to buy a ring light. You've got Paint.
Yeah.
Jeez, it looks nuclear.
Control E, which is actually image properties, which is the width and height of the document, is the old style. It's rendered with rounded rectangles because it's Windows 11. Control W is resize and skew. So these things look exactly like the dialogues in Paint have looked, I think, dating back to possibly Windows 95. I mean, they're really old. Those are the dialogues they're updating. That's in the dev channel, so it's similar to that start menu customization thing we just talked about. It's a feature that will probably, well, it's actually, this is just in an app, so they could ship this at any time. It's a minor update at best. It's not that like really basic stuff I was looking for. Doesn't even have a ribbon anymore, by the way. It doesn't matter. It's just, they really screwed this app up, and I rely on this thing. This to me is the equivalent of them screwing up Notepad for Mary Jo. It's like,
this is your app. Yeah.
I can't tell you how often I use this all day long. Oh man. And every day, it's like using a Mac, like where everything's a little different, and you're like, I know this app, why isn't this working? And it's just frustrating. But it's new. It's
the new and improved.
New is always better.
All right. Well,
I don't know.
There's a few things they could do to make it better. You should write your .NET Paint.
Well, there's already a Paint.net, right? So
I guess
the thing is,
that's a good point.
I use things for very specific. Well, so I've tried Paint.net, right?
Yeah.
There are certain things, it's kind of hard to explain, but like tools like Photoshop Elements and Paint.net both suffer from this, where the repetitive tasks you have to do, you're resizing a document, you're trying to crop it to a certain aspect ratio, the types of things I do like every day. Like that, those settings need to retain for this thing to be useful to me. And they're just, these things are just difficult. Paint is just really good at certain things, and it's gotten a little less good because they released this new version, which, aside from blowing up my retinas, doesn't support a couple of things it used to do.
This is why,
or easily.
Back in the day, George Morrow said, if you want to use software, you should write it yourself.
Yeah.
That way, it's just what you want, nothing more.
You only have you to blame.
You only have you to blame. Let's take a little break. Xbox news coming up, and prepare your questions. We're going to open the lines in just a few minutes. Paul and Mary Jo Foley have consented to taking your irate questions, your rants.
Well, they don't have to be
irate. Your bloviating, anything you want to do, you can do in just a little bit. If people are in the Discord, we have a special open mic channel for you. Don't go in there, of course, unless you have a question. For the IRC, I will be reading your questions. I will be doing a dramatic reading of your questions. So go ahead and start posting those. Make sure you
Will
say.
there be music?
There will be music. Yeah, I can. Yeah, whatever you want. I got
Could you sit by a fire or something and smoke a pipe?
Have a snifter of brandy.
Yep.
And then Paul and Mary Jo, Toast Sloth asked, if you have a question for Paul and Mary Jo, if you would do me a favor in the IRC, put my name first, because then I get a little highlight and I know that that's for them. Our show today brought to you by Melissa, the address experts. Having customer data that's accurate is vital for the success of your business, right? For bills, for mailings, for catalogs, for calling, everything. But how accurate is your customer data? Did you know that last year, 36 million address changes were processed by the Postal Service? And that's just addresses. About 30% of customer data goes bad every year, but Melissa can make sure your data is current and accurate. Not just addresses, but emails, phone numbers, names can all be verified with Melissa in real time if you want. Their global address verification service works in over 240 countries and territories, and you can do it at the point of entry. Actually, you kind of can choose how you want Melissa to work for you. It's very flexible. They've got, they're both experienced and independent. They have over 35 years of data quality expertise. I like it that that's what they do. They're not a part of a giant conglomerate. This is what they do. They are the address experts. And they've been doing that for 35 years, so they know it. That's probably why not only 10,000 businesses trust Melissa as the address experts, but they have a renewal rate of over 92%. People just, once you find Melissa, you go, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. I got it, and I'll keep using it. The typical ROI from Melissa customers, 25%. How could there be an ROI? Well, because you're wasting money. If you can't reach customers, you're sending catalogs to the wrong address. If you're sending duplicate catalogs, Melissa can get rid of duplication in your customer information database. Their data matching eliminates clutter, eliminates duplicates, increases the accuracy of your database, and reduces postage and mailing costs. You're also going to be able to do identity verification, which means you reduce your risk, you ensure compliance, and most importantly, you keep customers happy. They have some geocoding enrichments, which will convert addresses. I'm not sure how this gets used, but I take it people need it. They actually will convert an address into a latitude and longitude. That's cool. I'm sure there's something, maybe if you're delivering by drone, I don't know. They will also verify email, and they can remove up to 95% of bad email addresses from your database. That's huge, because nowadays, that's the main way you stay in touch, right? Melissa's flexible deployment options offer different platforms to suit any preference, business size, or budget. They've got flexible on-prem, web service. There's a secure FTP site you can upload and then download from. Software as a service. They also have their new Lookups app that's on iOS and Android to search addresses, names right there in your phone. And another thing I'm sure you care about and certainly should know is Melissa continually undergoes independent security audits to reinforce their commitment to your data's security, privacy, and of course, they know you have compliance requirements. They're SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA, GDPR compliant. The best support. Sign up for a service level agreement. You'll get 24/7 world-renowned support. And I should say that the pandemic's not over. And as they have been doing all this time, almost 2 years now, they're supporting communities and qualifying essential workers. During the pandemic, your organization could qualify for 6 months of free service. You can apply online at melissa.com. Congratulations, Melissa. Just named Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Data Quality Solutions. That's the second year in a row they've won that. Well done. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing the API sandbox 24/7. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. MELISSA. Melissa.com/twit. We thank them so much for their support of Windows Weekly. You're supporting it too by using that address, Melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa. Now, we're getting ready for the questions. While we're doing that, Paul, the Xbox segment.
Also, I have a first question, remember, from
That's right.
From someone who interviewed
That's
me.
right.
So, but anyway, so just two quick things for Xbox news. It is December 1st. I don't know how that happened so quickly, but here we are. As we record this, I should say. And Microsoft has announced the first Xbox Game Pass titles that will be coming this month, right? So the first are coming tomorrow, and then several on the 7th, 8th, 9th, 14th, et cetera. This is some big stuff in here. None bigger than Halo Infinite, which arrives on December 8th. And Halo is always kind of a big deal, obviously. I mean, it kind of enters a very different market, right? From what it used to be back in the day, Call of Duty, Warzone, Fortnite, et cetera. So we'll see how that goes. But, the feedback from the multiplayer beta has been mostly positive, I would say. And for once, I'm interested to play a single-player game, so we'll look forward to that.
Nice.
But a lot of other stuff in there as well. So that's always good if you're a Game Pass subscriber. And this is, in other words, this is one like I'm going to view in a slightly negative light. Other people will see it differently. But if you're familiar with Xbox Cloud Gaming, which used to be called xCloud, which is a feature of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and I'm always amazed I'm able to spit that out. You may know, or you may not know, I don't know. You can play it a couple of different ways if you have a Windows computer. So if you have a Windows 10 or 11, there's a native app called Xbox. You can play it through there. My understanding is that would typically be the best experience. But you can also play it through a web browser. And of course, the benefit of that is that it works on any platform. You can do that on Linux if you wanted the Mac, whatever. They announced that Xbox Cloud Gaming will include a feature called Clarity Boost, but only in Microsoft Edge, right? And it's basically a set of client-side scaling improvements that improves the visual quality of the stream. So I think you could make a pretty good argument, but maybe this is something they should contribute back to Chromium, and it should benefit any browser, I guess. But they're making this kind of a, I don't know, lock-in thing. I guess the good news is if you look at the image differences between non-Clarity Boost and Clarity Boost, they don't look that different to me. In fact, in the image that I scaled down, they don't look any different to me. It's almost like I'm spoofing people with this image. But if you want to test it, you have to get the Canary build of Microsoft Edge for now, obviously, and then enable it in Microsoft's version of what's it called? Edge flags or whatever. Just enable Clarity Boost in there, and it'll turn it on. But I don't know.
Are you getting kind of tired of the whole thing? Are you just like done with?
Well, I wish I had more. I don't like to be negative. I guess I just look at things like this and I think, why don't they just do the right thing? I don't know. Yeah, okay. I guess, look, they're a company. They need to have a competitive advantage. It is their service. Why wouldn't it run best in their own browser? Except Windows only, Windows best is a failed strategy from 20 years ago, guys. I don't know. Okay. It's okay. At least Xbox Cloud Gaming is available basically everywhere. So if you do want to play it on an iPhone, an iPad, an Android device, a Mac, a Linux computer, you can. So Xbox consoles, obviously. Not on the PlayStation or the Switch, but basically everywhere else. So,
do you want to do your first question, and then we'll get to our Discord and IRC questions?
I just think this is, and I think people listening on Discord or just to the show will kind of want to think about this one a little bit too. This is a really good question. So last month, a student from Knoxville, Kentucky, Gus Walski, I don't think he would mind me identifying him, asked Mary Jo and I actually if we would be interested in being interviewed for a school project, and I ended up doing it. And like I said, I think before the show started recording, I didn't really research any of his questions. He did send me the list of questions. I kind of read through them just to make sure they were in the right, right area. But there was one right in the middle that really caused me to. I thought about this for a lot, and I came up with the answer. But I'm curious what you guys have to say about this, which is this. Every year, the PC's power increases with each iteration. At what point or what year do you think that the PC's power became more than what the average worker requires?
What an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was fascinated by this. I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I didn't research it, like I said, but I really thought about it. I did come up with an answer. But before I get to that, I'm curious, just off the top of your heads, what you guys think about that.
I don't even know how I would answer that because I feel like there's some people who think PCs are really underpowered still for what they need to do. And for me, it's always been overkill.
Average office worker. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
For me, it's always been overkill because, I mean, I don't do a lot of productivity apps. Like I don't even run Word and Excel regularly, right? So
right.
I don't even know how I would answer that. I guess also because there are first line workers and like all different people who are in the productivity worker box. This is why you did this interview and not me, because I'm like just thinking.
Okay.
I don't even know how I would quantify the question.
Here's how you punt.
Yeah.
Here's how you punt elegantly, Mary Jo.
Yeah.
Well, there is no answer to that question.
Exactly.
Because as you know, the people's needs have grown with the capability of hardware. So you wouldn't sit down on a 1986 PC running Lotus 123 or worse.
Actually, Mary Jo probably could, honestly.
I could probably use CPM still.
Oh no, like you might, but you wouldn't try to calculate, the primes up to 8 million or whatever it is you do in business. I don't really understand business, but the point is that you kind of have an expectation.
Wait. You think that business
they need
is
to know
about
the primes.
Calculating the primes to a certain number of digits?
Well, I'm trying to think of a hard business problem. You
It's
wouldn't
a hard
calculate
computer science problem.
You wouldn't calculate, the cost per item of a million items or whatever. In other words, as always, you adjust the problems you assign to the computer based on what the computer is capable of. As it's become more capable, you ask more of it. Although I think, Mary Jo, you're right in the sense that it's been a long time since people said, I don't have enough computer to answer that question.
Exactly.
And in fact, really, it's not even whether it could answer it. It's more like, well, do you have to go get a cup of coffee or go to lunch or go home to get it to answer it? It's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of actually the question, with all due respect, is kind of nonsensical. Because
Hold on. So actually,
now, what was your answer? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think you will. I love this question because, of course, in my mind, what I'm thinking of is Windows and PCs and what the traditional relationship has been between hardware and software. And I think you guys will both remember this. In the 1990s, especially in the beginning of the 1990s, the conversation about Windows was always that the hardware that Windows ran on had needed time to catch up to the features that Microsoft was adding in every version.
Right.
So Windows was always really slow, but the canonical excuse for that was, we're just waiting for the hardware to catch up. Yeah, you may think Windows 3 is terrible on your 286, but wait till you get a 386. It's going to be awesome.
However, and before you go on, in that time period, I sat down with Andy Grove, then CEO of Intel, who said, God darn Bill Gates and Microsoft, they refused to update Windows to 32-bit. We're doing 32-bit. They're not. So, you're right. Hardware manufacturers might have had the same feeling in the other direction, right?
If you're going to argue that Microsoft software was poorly written and inefficient in the early to mid 1990s, I'm not going to argue with that. There's no doubt about it. It was terrible. But But the reality is, we had whatever versions of Windows we had whatever processors we had at the time, and they ran however they ran. We can blame whoever we want to blame, but at some point that changed. And thinking about this, I think that point was Windows Vista, because when Windows Vista came out, it was the last time I think where Windows required more of the computer than the computer had. And it's specifically for the display, because this was the version that had hardware accelerated graphics with Aero Glass. Well, they didn't call it Aero Glass at the time, I don't think, or did they? I don't remember. Anyway, if it wasn't Aero Glass, it became Aero Glass. But most computers of the day had Intel integrated graphics, which were terrible, and they couldn't run Aero Glass. So you got Aero Basic, which looked miserable. It looked like mud. And over time, they improved the drivers. Intel came up with a better version of the Intel integrated drivers, or integrated graphics. And then by SP1 and certainly by Windows 7, the transition had occurred. And basically by that point, anyone who wanted glass could get glass. And I think that was the end of it, because if you think about what's happened since Windows 8, which went back to kind of a matte, kind of flat appearance, Windows 10 now and Windows 11, there's no version of the UI in Windows 10 or 11 that's downgraded and looks terrible because your computer isn't fast enough to run it. Everyone has a computer that's fast enough to run it. So that was my answer. My answer was that Windows Vista was the dividing line between the terrible past and the.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, that was a
kind of
good
in a
one.
broad brush way of thinking about it. But it's certainly the case that it's been a long time since people's hardware wasn't up to the task of day-to-day office
right. And
stuff.
I think that was the thing. Like, that defined the personal computing experience. Whether you had like one of the early Macs. I remember I had a Commodore 64 with GeoS on it, which was terrible,
right?
Incapable of running that software. In Windows, like Windows, my early experiences with Windows on, was it 286? I guess 286 first, and then a 386 SX were not great, But eventually, the hardware, like you said, had already improved. Windows took advantage of it, and things got better.
I mean, there's always, Atom processors or Windows on ARM on a Qualcomm, 655, where no self-respecting office worker would go near of them.
Well, this stupid little Snapdragon 7C thing I've got, which I can't get out of its own way for sure.
So there's it's not a linear thing.
Well, mainstream computing.
I think and I think maybe another tipping point was when you went multi-core, like the Core 2. The duos, because suddenly now you really have a lot of horsepower.
32, 64-bit, multi-core, absolutely. Intel doubled the core in the U-series processor with Generation 8 from 2 to 4. That was big.
Later on, out of sync saying SSDs, but I would even say the hard drive speed has never been really an issue. But massive capacity.
It is if you don't have enough RAM. If you're doing swap disk
so
stuff.
a lot of RAM and a lot of capacity. Those made big differences too. It's certainly the case. Whenever it was,
right. That's true.
We're in good shape now.
And Mary Jo, listen,
Plus-
even you have a computer that
plus-
could run Microsoft Word if that's what you want.
No, and I was going to say the other thing that kind of skews this question is people doing more and more in VMs, right? And like
that's
the idea
right.
of Azure Virtual
That
Desktop.
was my initial point. Is your needs expand to fit what's available?
They do. Right.
Yeah, but you know what? The one maxim that's just remained true over all these years is you'll never need more than 640 megabytes of RAM.
Exactly. That never changed.
Question for Paul about Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
And this gives you time to pat your cat.
I had to get him to settle down.
Get Sriracha
Get
to
to
settle
settle
down.
down.
He hates these Halo questions.
He does.
This is from Newman in our Discord. Do you know what Microsoft's plans are for Halo Infinite? I see a separate app in the store for the campaign that costs $60.
Right.
There's a multiplayer app that's free. However, it's in beta. Then I've heard there was a Battle Royale component to Infinite as well, which is going to be free. So there's different SKUs.
Right.
I guess
I think
the biggest question is the multiplayer, which is currently free, going to be not free?
I think they're going to roll it. I don't actually know, and I should say I'm on the beta, so I can't really. There's some things I can't really talk about yet. But my understanding, my belief, I should say, is that it will be like Call of Duty. They'll roll it into like a one app stub kind of a thing where it launches the different experiences from within the one app. I think the reason you see separate things today is because they decided to do multiplayer as a free beta. So by separating it out, they could give you a standalone download that would be easier to digest. That's my understanding. As far as, there's a lot different with this release, right? This is a multi-platform deal for the first time ever at launch anyway. I think Halo 2, I think it was Halo 2, eventually came out on Windows Vista, actually, now that we're talking about Vista again. But other than that, more recent games. It's basically been a console release. So this time it's console, it's Windows PCs, and it's Xbox Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass. And Xbox Cloud Gaming, right? So you're going to get it through all these different channels. So you can play it in different ways and mix and match and all that kind of stuff. So I know they're going to adopt that seasons approach that a lot of games are doing now. They want to be really aggressive with the seasons, which I don't actually think is too smart. But I think they're looking at 3-month seasons, and that the original season, the first season, I should say, will be 6 months long, so they can kind of get their bearing and then go from there. I think a 6-month season is probably the right approach, but we'll see. That's all I have to say.
Good.
So, I think that's.
We have a question from JT. I'm going to turn on. I guess. Do I? Oh no! You turn
look
on
at
your
this.
mic. Somebody's going to turn on his mic. Hey JT.
Can you hear me?
I
Hello?
can. Speak up because it's a little low, and I've turned the volume up.
This is like an episode of MASH where we're calling home from Korea.
Yeah.
Back to Edge, Paul. I take offense to being called weird for upgrading Windows. I don't know how many people here. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I want to applaud Microsoft for skating to where the puck is going to be. I remember in Minority Report in 2054 or so, there's advertising everywhere, so I think they should be applauded for just go ahead and getting.
They know it's coming. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I do feel like there is a trend of subscription fatigue, and I don't know if that's where Microsoft is going, and that I'm happy to have Windows be free forever, and I don't think they have a good way to pay for that with hardware like Apple does. And I also just kind of want to say that we see this life cycle. And I remember Netscape Navigator became Netscape Communicator, became so bloated, became Mozilla Firefox. You know, we see that life cycle of browsers where it goes from a very slim browser to a very bloated browser to a slim browser. I guess it's just inevitable, right? And maybe this is how the developers keep their job security. It goes from a very slim browser to a very bloated.
Okay, we're getting a little echo now.
Getting a little echo, sorry.
Yep.
So let me address. Can I address the most important thing you said, which is Minority Report? The thing about that movie is they exchanged data by taking a disk out of a machine and putting it over to another machine.
God.
They had all this holographic stuff going on, but they still had it physical, which I always thought was amazing. Anyway, I think you're right across the board. Microsoft doesn't have a way to subsidize software through hardware sales like Apple does, so they have to have a different approach. But I actually, we talk about this notion, I think, and we have, for some reason, have this belief that people would be against it, that nobody wants to pay for a Windows subscription, that when you hear something like Microsoft 360 or Windows 365, you get nervous. That, oh, here we go. They've been working toward this, I think that Microsoft believes people don't want that, and they're nervous about offering something like that. But I think they've done so many terrible things by this point. If they just said, look, for $5 a month, we'll get rid of all this stuff, I'd be like, please take my money. I would gladly pay that, frankly.
I think they should try that, actually.
I do too.
I think they should. Just not for everybody. Like if you're okay with seeing ads or not seeing them like me.
Yeah, give you the option. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I also still think they should have a pro version of Windows and non-pro versions. I still don't think Windows should be a one-size-fit-all. No.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, this question from Spitif about Windows versions in the IRC: Has there been any Spitif? Has there been any indication?
Audio thing?
Yeah. Has there been any indication from Microsoft there's a security-first version of Windows in the future to address the issues with Windows' ability to run any code from anywhere and authentication that's as strong as a latch on a public toilet stall? He just wanted
that's
to say
NT,
that.
buddy. What are you talking about?
That's a good line. Thank you, Spitif.
That's a fair.
Well, okay, so that's in some ways that's what Windows 10X was going to be because everything was going to be virtualized, right?
Yeah.
And then they couldn't pull it off. They couldn't make it work.
I still wish we don't know. I've not heard. I'd like to think they're still working on that. I still think that's viable and would make a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Because that would be the true secure way to do it, right?
Sandbox it all. Yeah.
Literally sandbox it, and where everything that you close something and it's disposed of. Whatever state was there, whatever data is there is just erased immediately. They are. God, maybe Joe knows more about this. The Midori type projects they've had. Microsoft has been working toward this for forever, and it's just never really come to fruition.
No. Midori, for people who don't remember, was going to be a new operating system from Microsoft that was not based on Windows. Like they were throwing everything out and starting from scratch. And they got pretty far along, right? Eric Rudder was the head of the team, and they had it was the creme de la creme. They picked different people inside Microsoft to be on the team. Yeah. And some of the tooling they did for Midori has made it into dev stuff, but they just for whatever reason, because of politics or feasibility or whatever, they just got to a point and threw it out. They were like, no, we're not doing that. Actually, we're not going to go that way.
Yeah, and that could have happened to Windows 10X already, for all we know. But like I said, I'd like to think, I really think there's a container/virtualization solution that could make Windows whole or whatever.
I mean, in some ways, Cloud PC is going that way with the app side of the equation, but that doesn't take into account Windows, really.
Right.
Let me go back to our Discord. Newman, go ahead, turn on your mic. It's your turn to ask a question.
Cool. Hey, guys. Thanks for opening up the floor. You've actually already answered my question, Paul. It was about the Halo Infinite, whether or not they're going to charge for the multiplayer. But I just want to say I'm really enjoying my Club Twit membership. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Newman. Thank you for joining. $7 a month gets you ad-free versions of all of our shows. It gets you access to the Discord channel and the Twit Plus feed. For more information, clubtwit.com/ I mean, twit.tv/
You do that in your sleep now. It's like,
pretty
also
much.
here's a Pluto,
Wake up in the middle of the night.
TV.
There you go. Would you like to join?
And I'm going to be on the AMA Friday.
I forgot. Oh, that's
boy.
so important. Mary Jo Foley does an Ask Me Anything for Club Twit members on Friday. What time? Do you know?
I think 10 a.m. Pacific.
10 a.m. Pacific. If you're not a member, it's not too late. Go to twit.tv/clubtwit. You can literally, you can join for a month and then cancel, and it'll cost you $7. If you can't be around for the live Ask Me Anything, although I encourage you to be so, Aunt Pruitt's going to host it, our community manager.
How do you do the questions on that? Is it like what we're doing here?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Ant also has a bunch of questions.
He's
lined
preparing
up.
questions. And then we'll put it on the Twit Plus feed. So even if you can't be there for it in person, please do. But if you can't, you'll be able to download it and listen to it. Spitif says, do I get to ask Chris Capicella questions if I subscribe to Club Twit? I don't know what the ground rules are. I don't think we're going to open up the lines for that. I just feel like that might be a risk.
I don't think we're going to have time. He's kind of time limited. But
Yeah.
But you guys can give us ideas if there are things you think.
That's true. Actually, we can do that on Twitter or you can do it in Discord. Figure out a way to if people have questions.
Well, and during the interview, we'll have those questions. I know you, Mary Jo, you're in the Discord. You can monitor it. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
From IRC comes a question for Paul from Keith 512. That's kind of a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Why does Windows not update like Linux when you tell it to? And why are they so focused on one update a month in the form of Patch Tuesday? So,
God, I wish they were so focused on one update a month.
That'd be good, right?
God, are you kidding me?
One of the things that's nice about, and Microsoft's on its way to doing this, but it's nice about Linux is you have a package manager. Almost always when you install software, you install it through the package manager, which even allows you to install, Git downloads and stuff. And then the package manager, whenever you run it, will update everything for you, not just the operating system, but everything you've installed. And that's on demand pretty much, although it'll pop up a notification if there's, a lot of updates waiting for you. So that is a nice way to do it. I don't think that's appropriate for Windows, really.
Well, as far as Windows updates go, I mean, the one thing I will say, for all the complaining I've done today and forever, I do feel like they've gotten to a pretty good place with updates, with a few little asterisks. But, they tried to do this Windows as a service thing with Windows 10. They expanded the number of weeks in which updates basically come out every month. I mean, honestly, it's more typical to get 3 weeks of updates in a month than one, but okay, whatever. The cumulative update thing, I think, has been a success. That's worked out really well. If you don't believe me, try to update Windows 7 today. That's hilarious. I guess it's out of support, but that was a nightmare. Windows 8. Go do Windows 8, and then we'll talk in a week. But that's good. There's still stuff about updating in Windows I don't like. I wish that I could midstream go into Windows Update, click check for updates. It starts downloading the updates, and I could click one and say, stop doing that.
Right.
I wish it was a little more granular, like that kind of thing. But, they're trying to make it dummy proof, and, the goal is the same as it was when they announced Windows 10. They want as many people as possible to be on the most, the latest, most secure version of Windows. And the way to do that is to update the computer. So, I mean, it's still disruptive. I mean, I at least once or twice a month I have to reboot a computer because of Windows updates, but it's better than it was. This is one area this is one of the rare examples. I don't really have a lot to complain about here for some reason, but it doesn't bug me.
It's time-tested, tried and true.
The paint thing bugs me, though.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Mary Jo, you sent the Duo 2 back? Somebody, Mr. K's asking. Oh.
I did. Yep. I sent it back, and I feel bad because I was trying to do one of my non-reviewer reviews of it, but it was so hard for me to use.
It was so awful. This is something reviewers know, not everything deserves to be reviewed.
No, I don't even know if I should post on my site saying, so here's my 1-sentence review. It's still not ready.
Yeah.
Like that, there we are.
Well, there it is. You posted it on this site. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you saved me. Because, I felt a little bad about I canceled my order. But
no, you know what? The hardware is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really
Beautiful.
great.
Yeah.
The camera has gotten way better. Still not as good as like the Pixel camera, obviously. But the part that's still not good is the software. It just doesn't work well.
I want a Pixel
so
foldable,
Yeah.
I want the Pixel software on a foldable.
Do you want the hinge in the middle, though? That's kind of a weird thing to get used to.
I want a foldable.
This is the Flip.
Oh, you want like one of the foldables.
I really like the Flip better than the Fold 2.
But let me ask, so what's the advantage of it being able to fold? And what's the advantage
Look how
of that
small
little
it is. Look at it.
No, I know, but what's the,
Look.
I know, but
just to carry it, right?
Yeah.
But you still have to open it every time you pull it out.
Yeah, but that's not a big deal. You used to do that all the time with your Nokia.
Yeah,
Do you
I used
ever
to, but
do
then the
it
1990s ended, and I.
Do you ever like put it down on a table in like a mini laptop position and watch a video?
Yeah, actually, it's cool because of the selfie cam.
Yeah,
you can do it like that.
Okay, that's actually pretty cool. Okay,
I think what it is it's a regular size phone. It's a little taller.
Could you just leave it like that all the time?
And you could leave it like that, but then you'd what would be the point? You close it. It does have this extra screen which shows notifications, the time, stuff like that. It's a color screen too, so it can have a nice background, and it's supremely pocketable. It would only be for somebody who wants a very small
Nintendo thing.
Yeah,
Right.
It's like a Game Boy. It's only for somebody who wants a really small phone. But honestly, I think this is a good reason for a foldable phone. I don't think the Galaxy Fold is
the bigger Fold. Yeah,
yeah, because then it's a honking wide big chunk of a thing like the Duo, which opens out into it's too small for a tablet, too big for a phone, kind of a middle size.
Yeah.
This makes more sense. Plus, applications say, "Oh, you're on a regular phone." It doesn't say, "Oh, I don't understand what you're doing here."
So most when that thing's folded like in an L shape, it just is the app full screen by default. Is that how it works? Like if you put that like down on the little table like you did there before.
Yeah.
Like folded.
Right. It doesn't go to a half size.
Some apps do.
Oh, some apps.
Some apps are fold aware.
Because you'd have two apps. Or okay. So like a camera app might have control.
Camera app is aware. Yeah. So so the camera app. This is, let's see, I can show you this. Can I? Yeah. So the camera app, now this is, because it's folded, it shows what's in the camera there and it has controls down here.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. And when I unfold it, it goes back to the normal. So that's a Samsung app though. But that's, I think that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I notice you've correctly changed the orientation of those buttons on the bottom, which I appreciate.
Oh yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know what the deal is.
On a lot of, like the Pixel, on my Pixel phone, I don't have the buttons, but on this phone, for some reason, I just don't like because
it's opposite.
Well, and then Samsung for some reason puts back on the right and resets on the left.
I know it's
That's
crazy.
weird.
That doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Nope.
And this phone is so tall, I have plenty of room for those controls on the bottom. That's why I left them on.
Yeah.
This is the aspect ratio. Here's the Pixel is a little weird because it's
tall and thin.
I can't even fit it in the screen there.
Yeah.
How does the weight compare to the Pixel?
Pixel's pretty heavy. It's still a little heavier, I think. Yeah. This is not look. Most guys don't care about how big their phone is, but a lot of people, women who want to put it in a purse, people who don't want to have a phone holster on their hip.
Sure.
Just the fact that it goes in a breast pocket, it's nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So, foldable is not. I don't know if I think this is the way. This makes sense for foldable.
Yeah.
Make the phone smaller, not make the screen bigger. Anyway, let's go to the Discord. And Lowell, you can turn on your mic. You're next. Go ahead, Lowell.
Hello.
Hey, whoa, hey, surprise. Hi, Lowell.
Hi. We just got some notice with Microsoft not that long ago that they'll be increasing the pricing by 20% of Microsoft 365 subscriptions through CSP providers, and unless you get an annual. So if you lock into the annual, you get the same pricing except for the small pricing here and there. I'm just wondering if Mary Jo, if you've heard, if that's also happening to people who buy direct. I'm sure it is, but just haven't seen any communication about it.
So this is different from the price increase in March that they already disclosed?
Yeah, so there's the price increase on a few SKUs that's just going to happen, period. But then if you stay on month to month, you're going to go up 20%. And that seems like a big money grab. It should be like 5% maybe or something. It's just huge jump.
No, I haven't heard any other options or things that they're doing in that space. You know, when they announced the March pricing, they said it's been a really long time since we had an increase in Office pricing, and this is substantive, like we admit it. And yeah, you're just going to have to bite the bullet because we've added so much to Office that wasn't there before over the past several years that it's time for us to increase the price. But yeah, having a huge differential between paying monthly and paying annually, that's obviously meant to force you to go annually, right? But it still seems a little, especially during the pandemic, kind of suspect, right?
Yeah, it's also tough because, like, for us as an IT provider, as CSP, if a customer leaves us and goes to someone else, we're responsible for the remainder of their annual contract, right?
Oh, wow.
They're making it a lot harder and worse for partners, and they're saying it's for flexibility and for more options. And it's like, no, that's not it at all.
No, totally not it.
Wow.
We didn't mention this when we talked about Teams Essentials, but that is also going to be offered through partners, right?
Cloud
not just
providers.
directly from Microsoft.
Right, directly and through cloud partners, yep.
So you're saying these prices are increasing for all partners who resell Microsoft 365, is that?
Yeah, so there's those basic price increases. Some are 10%, some are, and those are good. I mean, Microsoft has an increase, and they've added a ton of value, and that's great. But I think they should switch to that. And if you want to charge someone more for monthly, maybe 5% or something. Right. But basically, as all of our customers, we got to go to and say, if you want to stay monthly, which a lot of customers, when you have like people leaving and coming in an organization, we've used Microsoft Model, trying to tell other vendors, hey, you guys should change your licensing to what Microsoft does. It's completely flexible. Someone, just month to month. Oops.
Yeah, that's rough. I'm gonna look a little more into that. Thanks for the heads up on that.
Thanks, Lowell.
Yeah,
appreciate it. Let's see. I think we have one more question. Actually, a couple more. Let's go to Wojo. Is that short for Wojciechowicz?
Like from Barney Miller?
From Barney Miller in the Discord server. Hello, Wojo. Oh, he's got his headphones muted. He can't hear himself either. He can't hear us. He can't hear you. He can't see you. While he's getting ready, let's go to JoJo Dancer in the IRC. Mary Jo and Paul told us Microsoft's coming up with Visio web version by July for the Microsoft 365 members. Have they finished porting it to the web? Where can we find it? We want it.
I saw something about this.
Yeah. So they postponed the delivery date on that. This is the lightweight version of Visio that they were making available.
Right.
It was supposed to be, I
was
think,
all
May,
excited when you mentioned
July, that. Right. I think last I heard, they are in the middle of rolling it out now to commercial Microsoft 365 customers. And most people have it, not everybody. I just heard from somebody a week ago who was like, where is this thing? So I think it's still in the midst of being rolled out. If you're asking about consumers getting it, I don't think they said consumers would. I think business only for this.
Yeah. Somebody in our chat room says it's live for him, Web 5390. So it is live for some people.
Yep.
Thank you, Wojo. He's gone, but Kev Brewer is now in here. And maybe because you asked him about Wojciechowicz, I don't know. But Kev is our master of the animated GIF. Hello, Kev.
He is.
Hi, guys. Question on Windows 11 and the taskbar. Do you think they'll be offering any more flexibility to control that as a user? Because I'm finding having to use the start menu to get to Word and all the other apps that I normally use would normally leave in my taskbar. I can't put on there. It limits the width and the amount you can put in, and I'd rather have more control over that taskbar because it's taking me out my workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we wouldn't want to do that because we count on you for the animated GIFs. So, stay in the workflow.
Start and taskbar have to be the two biggest pain points for Windows 10 11 users, and Microsoft knows this, right? So there's a couple things. And, Start 11 addresses some of these, by the way, not to keep pimping Brad's product, but One of the things it does is allows you to change the size of the taskbar and the size of the icon so you can have more on screen at the same time. Yeah. I expect they're going to add more right-click options. They're going to add the ability to move that thing to other sides of the screen. And then, and actually, do they even have, I don't think they even support, I don't know that native Windows 11 even supports like small icons, does it? I don't think it does.
No, it doesn't. You've got fixed set on.
So that's just such an obvious regression. I would think they would tackle that for some time in the next year. Yeah.
I think they will too, because anytime somebody who works for Microsoft on Twitter brings up Windows 11, people zoom right in on that thing and they're like, you got to fix a taskbar, you guys. Like, it's really not okay. And it turns into this like pile-on thread. They know people are really unhappy about the taskbar. And if they don't change it, what's the reason, right? Why?
It's not just you.
You know what? It feels like I'm sitting there flashing through a Word document. I need a photograph. If it's in my taskbar, I'm used to seeing it there. I know instantly it's a click away. But to have to stop, to break, to go to the start menu, which then flags up, and you've got bars of apps there, for which you have to scroll through in some cases. Auto way of talking you out the mode. It needs fixing.
Also, the drag and drop stuff too. You know, the ability to drag a file down to an icon and have that application maximize whatever and throw it in. Is another one I think people have complained a lot about. But this feels to me like the task. This was the Windows 10X feature, right? This was the 10X was going to be a stripped-down version of Windows. It didn't have to have all the same features. It might have been appropriate for those kind of mobile devices that the thing was targeting originally, but it doesn't make sense as a Windows 10 replacement. Yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Thank you, Kev.
Thank you very much.
We really appreciate your participation in the Discord. Kev is one of the most active members who makes it very fun during our shows. A reminder, once again, Mary Jo Foley's Ask Me Anything is Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Club Twit members, there'll be a special room set up for that, and you'll be able to ask Mary Jo questions and so forth. And if you're not a Club Twit member, twit.tv/clubtwit.
I told Ant he has to drink a breakfast stout because it's going to be 10 a.m.
It's going to be breakfast for him, too.
Not a whiskey.
Perfect. Right? Breakfast stout for all. All right, let's. That went well. We should reincorporate that because
I like doing those.
Love
I think
doing
they're fun.
that, and you guys are great. We did get some new people in there. That was my concern in the past. Was it was always the same few people asking questions. But as you get less shy, folks, we will do more of that. Let's put it that way. No need to be shy. You can.
It helps that we're in the slowest part of the year too.
Yeah. Well, now's the time. Yeah.
It is.
Back of the book, just around the corner, including a beer pick of the week. But first, a word from our sponsor, Windows Weekly, brought to you today by ITProTV. Love ITProTV. The greatest way to learn the skills you need to get that first job in IT or to perfect and improve the skills you've already got to get a better job in IT. It's a wonderful time to be in IT. I mean, the demand is there and it's only getting, increasing. If you're looking to break into an IT career, and there's lots of different ways to go with that, or you're already a seasoned professional, ITProTV has something for each and every one of you. You can get the certificates there that you need to be desirable to employers and to level up in your current positions. They work really hard to keep it up to date. Of course, they have to. The IT world never sits still. But ITProTV always has the latest content, the latest certs. Microsoft's changed their whole cert structure. They've got all the new certs. When the questions and the exams change, ITProTV updates those, the topics and so forth. And, of course, there's always new versions of software. One of the ways they do this, they have 7 studios in their Gainesville, Florida headquarters. They film Monday through Friday, all day long with their enthusiastic edutainers, experts in the field, always, that's first, but also people who can communicate, who can express their passion and help you get excited about the topic. That's really an important job. 20 to 30-minute chunks means you can watch at lunch or whenever you've got a moment. And they even have searchable transcripts, so you don't even have to watch the whole thing. If you just want to polish up one particular area, you can go right to that part of the courses. And you will be prepared for your exams with virtual labs, practice tests, all the features a digital world can give you. They're wrapping up 2021, and for December, they are now announcing, it's December 1st, the brand new theme, and I love it, Python. Python. That is a skill everybody, not just sysadmins and coders, everybody should have. It's an easy language to learn and so great for automation, all sorts of things. Check out the webinar coming up next week, December 9th, 2 p.m. Eastern. It's on most in-demand IT jobs for 2022. Ronnie Wong's going to be leading that. He's great. You don't want to miss it. And then on the weekend of December 11th and 12th, free weekend featuring Python courses. I might be doing some of these. This is really great. Introduction to programming using Python for the newbies. Python programming for people who have some experience in programming but want to get into Python. There's object-oriented Python. That's kind of a new area. I like that. Python data model, very popular. Python for security. Very interesting. Automate your pen tests and things. Start or advance your IT career with the wonderful instructors, and they really are, at ITProTV. And, of course, Tim and Don, their founders, are fantastic. By the way, just a free plug for Don's podcast, Technado. It's fantastic. ITPro.tv/Windows is the website. You'll get 30% off any consumer subscription as long as you stay active. That could be for your whole life. As long as you stay active, just use the code WW30. 30% off is a lot. I think if you're going to get in IT, you should probably know that. ITPro.tv/Windows, code WW30 for additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. Love these guys. They're a great sponsor, but they do a great job. And I know so many people who've gotten their IT certs and training from ITProTV. And it's a community. That's the best part. Wonderful people. ITProTV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thank you, ITProTV, for supporting Windows Weekly. Paul, start us off.
Yeah.
Tip of the week. Back of the
What
month.
did I do?
Here we go. It's your fault, Paul. I blame you.
I didn't do it. Maybe I did do it. Oddly,
yes.
Ahead of all this weird stuff that's been going on with Microsoft Edge, I started experimenting with other web browsers a few months ago. And I've used all the major ones, Firefox, Chrome, Vivaldi, Opera, and Brave. All of those except for Firefox are based on Chromium, so they're, a simple transition, I would say, from Edge. I guess they're all simple transitions, really. Firefox supports all of the same extensions. You just have to, kind of go manually download them as you would on any browser. But now that Edge is starting to stink, I would imagine that other people are going to start thinking about this stuff as well. And to me, I would say today, although, this may change in the future, I always sort of say I feel like I'm going to end up on Brave someday, but I still feel it's like a little rough. I think there are two obvious choices, either one of which will be controversial based on where your head's at the time. And those are Firefox and Chrome, right? And Firefox is kind of the one I want to support, because they're independent and they obviously care about the web and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I use Firefox pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, and it's great. They've done some stuff with regards to progressive web apps I'm not a big fan of.
That disappoints me, yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to use Chrome, I get it. It's weird to me that Chrome might be less bloated than Edge right now. It's just this weird thing to say out loud. It takes some steps to get rid of the tracking stuff. There are extensions you can get that will remove the Google tracking. But it's a weird thing to say. But in a really bizarre turnaround, I feel like these browsers might be better options.
If you're a little handy, you can use a penknife and cotton swabs. Then you might want to try, it's called Ungoogled Chromium. So Chromium's the open source version. And going a step further, there is an de-Googled Chromium. A lot of privacy advocates like, because you get the benefits of the Chromium engine with zero Google cruft.
Even Chromium, I kind of dispensed with Chromium pretty quick, but Google at some point this year got rid of the Google sync and sign-in stuff in Chromium. They made that part of proprietary Chrome.
Right.
And that had always been part of Chromium before that. That actually makes it less viable, I would say, for a lot of people. Although if you don't want the Google stuff, then, maybe it's okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, it's a hard conversation, and it's a weird thing to even be talking about.
It's constant for me.
Yeah.
Search. I move around a lot, as I know you do.
Yep. Yeah. Someone asked me the other day on Twitter, what browser have you settled on? It's like I'm not sure I ever will. I mean, I go back and forth. But I've successfully used all these browsers. There's something about Opera that I just can't wrap my head around. And Vivaldi, I think you had the same experience where it's almost like there's too many options.
Yeah, I like Vivaldi a lot.
I do too. I like the idea of it a lot.
Yeah. I just always go back to Firefox because I want there to be diversity in the ecosystem, frankly. So I don't want to use another Chrome-based browser.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand that. It's a good choice.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, a lot of the flaws have gone away. It's pretty good. They do a good job.
Yeah, it works fine.
It's got good sync built in.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, that's the other thing. I mean, there's a whole conversation. I'm not going to have it today, but to be had around whether or not you're syncing things like passwords and whatever, form fill data, et cetera, between mobile and PC, and how many device types to use, and is that even important? I'm kind of in a place now where I have synced my data between browsers on different platforms so many times that my basic set of passwords will be available anywhere where I sign into Chrome, Firefox, Edge, whatever, on PC, Mac, mobile of any kind, Chromebook, whatever. So to me, that stuff's just a one-time problem. You can export your data and get it into any browser. It's fine. It's not really a big deal, meaning, I guess, that you could say for some reason you want to use Firefox on the desktop, but maybe you want to use Safari on an iPhone or Chrome on a Android handset or whatever it is. And it's fine. Like this, what's the big deal? It's fine. It all works fine. So anyway, I guess the tip, such as it is maybe it's time to start considering looking around if you're using Edge. If you're nervous about it like I am. That's all.
The problem is, though, if you decide to go with something other than Edge, undoing Edge from Windows 11, right?
Yeah, and that's unfortunately is a moving target. So for right now, there are tools that will let you do that, like that Edge Extractor program is great. And it's some very, Microsoft, like you said today, they said, hey, by the way, a lot of this stuff is going to come not before, or it will become before what I'll call Windows 11 2.0. I expect that Edge stuff to come before then. Why not? Edge is updated, every 4 weeks now, right? So there's absolutely no reason that won't come. So, yeah, you have to, I feel like, it's going to be this game we play with Microsoft where people will figure out workarounds. People like you and I can kind of document them or write about them. Microsoft will work to thwart them, and we're going to be playing this game for a while. Yeah, for sure. I'm not in the place where I'm like, oh, you have to rip out Edge from, Windows and get rid of it. And, we're not talking like the antitrust days with Internet Explorer where people really that upset about it, but it's trending in the wrong direction.
Yep, it is.
Yeah.
How about an app pick of the week?
Yeah. So, it's not like there's been any new apps released this week, although I will mention that Luna Display, if you're into that, just released a big update with 5K support and Mac to PC support. But my actual pick is Xbox Game Pass, because next week, actually literally 1 week from today, Microsoft is going to release Halo Infinite, which we talked about with some of the people in Discord earlier, across multiple platforms. So I think it's going to be good enough that you may actually want to buy it on your platform of choice. But if you just want to see what it's like, well, hey, by the way, dive into multiplayer right now. But if you're an Xbox Game Pass, you can get the game, as part of the subscription. So it's kind of a cheap way to do it. And if you've never subscribed, I believe that $1 deal for 3 months is still available. If it's not, you'll get $1 for 1 month. So either way, you can try Halo Infinite next week for free using Xbox Game Pass. And you should. It's probably the reason that this year's Call of Duty didn't do that great, that and the fact that the game is terrible. But that's never stopped Call of Duty.
Activision is also part of the black mark against Call of Duty. So
that's for sure.
Yeah.
And they're also not a company that participates in Xbox Game Pass, which makes me want to dump them like
I think Microsoft's not really participating in them either, because didn't Microsoft and Sony Both said,
Sony,
we're going to reconsider our relationship with Activision after all this.
I was going to say they talked is what they did. So we'll see if anything comes out of it.
Nothing's happened yet. Yeah, it's hard to turn down the money Call of Duty must generate.
Well, it's a little bit less money this year, so they're not trending in a good direction either. So maybe there'll be some changes over there.
I love this. A new segment on the show we're going to call, Mary Jo's calling our shareholder pick of the week. What?
This is just a one-off, though.
Okay.
Not every week. No, there's some very interesting news around Microsoft for shareholders this week because of the timing of a bunch of different things. So I've had a couple people ask me on Twitter this week if I saw reports about Satya Nadella dumping half of his shares of Microsoft over the holiday weekend. And what was going on there? Like, was there going to be a changing of the guard, or was he quitting? Like, what was going on? So there are a few things probably going on there. Microsoft's not going to say why he sold a lot of stock. That's his business and not theirs. But there, end of the year, a lot of executives sell off a lot of stock for tax reasons, estate planning, all that kind of stuff. And if you live in Washington State, starting January 1st next year, there is a new 7% tax on capital gains over $250,000. GeekWire wrote a story all about this, and they said if that's what he was doing, Nadella could save up to $20 million in state taxes.
Yikes.
By selling now. So that's my guess why he sold now. I don't think it's anything to do about him quitting or him thinking Microsoft shares are about to take a dive. I don't think it's anything like that. It's definitely personal tax planning kinds of stuff.
Yeah. How much was his, were half
I forget.
Worth?
It was like I forget what the exact number was, but it was like a lot of shares.
Probably,
hundreds of millions. Yeah. Hundreds of millions. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have a hard time covering this stuff. Because if somebody came along and gave me $500 million, I'd be on an island somewhere. I wouldn't be anywhere near running a company.
Yeah.
I don't need that stuff. No. I'm only working because I have to.
Yeah, same.
Right? So this is why we're working stiffs and those guys are billionaires, which is ironic because we know what to do with the money.
Yep.
Yes, we would.
We would.
I might still do this podcast, but I'd be sitting in front of a palm tree somewhere.
I don't, the only people who work are people who have to work these days, I think. And billionaires,
do something.
Oddly enough.
Something.
Yeah.
Do you have to do something? Do you? Do you have to?
That's my theory, having never not done nothing or having never not done anything. I guess. I don't know.
Well, you'll probably be a billionaire someday, Paul, because you're a hard
that
work
happening, but
he is. He works hard.
You do. You get to a stage in your life. I'm there, by the way, where you go, well, guess that didn't work out. I guess.
Yeah. I had a good run.
World domination. I guess, no, maybe not. How did that Bezos get rich so quickly? I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand. I've worked.
Started a bookstore.
Yeah.
It's the obvious way to wealth.
What was I thinking? All right, that's good. I like it. Our shareholder pick of the week.
But there's two shareholder picks.
There's another one.
There is.
So good.
Because
just go through like all of Microsoft shareholders.
Yeah. Tuesday this week was the annual Microsoft shareholders meeting. Have you guys ever gone to one of these? They're so trippy. I used to go to the Microsoft one when I worked in Seattle, and I could easily go to the
is it in a
company
big,
shareholder.
Like, is it in the big arena? It must be.
Big auditorium usually, and a lot of much older people come, and they sit in the front row so that they can ask questions of like Gates, Ballmer, Nadella, who's ever the CEO at the time, right? It's a very formal, staged affair. And what comes up during these meetings every year is shareholder proposals. And they're always kind of interesting and sometimes a little wacky to see what people think Microsoft should do. This year, there were a lot of shareholder proposals that were very sensible and very controversial around things like facial recognition. So should Microsoft continue to sell that technology because it's not regulated enough? There were things about pay. Should Microsoft publicize the racial and gender disparity gaps in their payment system? All these things voted down by the company. One thing got through this year at the shareholder meeting that was very interesting. Microsoft shareholders voted for more transparency and independence around the handling of sexual harassment cases. That got approved. It's not binding, but it got approved. And the reason was because of Bill Gates.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was very interesting and creepy and lots of other things. If you want to read the whole report about this, go to GeekWire. They have a great write-up. And for people who don't know this, who cover and watch Microsoft and have a lot of interest, there's a site that's open to everyone, Microsoft.com/investor. Go check that site out sometimes because there are transcripts of all kinds of things up there, not just financial numbers, but like the whole transcript of the shareholder meeting is up there. And you can
also,
just
for people who don't know this
leisure.
about Microsoft, Bill Gates is a terrible human being.
Yeah. Still,
I thought
or
it was
was
very
that
interesting.
the old days?
It never ended, is what we've learned.
This,
it
the
never
fact
ended.
this got through is very, very interesting, right?
Yep.
Anyway,
so
whatever
basically,
you think,
they want the results of that investigation.
right. And not just about him, but whenever sexual harassment cases come up at Microsoft, they want stuff to be more transparent and more public about.
That's hard to do because it's
Yes,
an
it is.
investigation.
Yeah.
It's not a court proceeding.
No. Like I said, it's not binding. This proposal's not binding, but the fact that it even was approved is very telling.
There's good legal and privacy reasons why you don't want an investigation to be public until it's concluded, perhaps.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure they won't publish it before it's concluded, right?
Yeah.
That would just be a lot of violations
Even then,
of everything.
even then,
it's still
you'd have
very
to
controversial.
redact it like crazy, right?
Yeah, you would.
You don't want the names of the victims to be in there, for instance.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a can of worms for sure, but very interesting it got approved.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
The power of the shareholder. This is why we're not a public company, because you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
It's also why I'm still working. There is a transcript from the shareholders meeting, I see.
There is. Yep, you could go read it yourself. The whole, what Nadella talked about, Amy Hood, and the questions that people asked in the audience, all of that stuff's in there. Yep.
The only thing I know about shareholders meeting, I know from watching Succession on HBO. And that is a very much more fun, I think, than a normal shareholders meeting. It's
usually very boring.
Yeah.
And sometimes the questions are very crazy and kind of zany, which make it a little more fun. But
Right. Codename pick of the week.
There is a
Mary Jo.
codename this week.
Yes.
Project Nucleus. Project Nucleus is a not exactly like Fluid Framework and Loop, but it's a way to synchronize data specifically offline. Microsoft introduced this idea and this technology. It was more like a vision 2 years ago at Ignite, Project Nucleus. Well, the first app that is incorporating it is now available. Microsoft Lists. They're incorporating Nucleus into Lists, and this is how Microsoft says they're going to turn the Lists web app into a true PWA. So I kind of thought Microsoft had backed away from PWAs. They weren't really talking about it that much anymore, but no. I think they were waiting for Nucleus to be finalized and complete enough to be used so that if you're using something like Lists and you take your PC offline or you have a bad internet connection, when you come back, everything just syncs automatically in a way that doesn't take so much time when you're syncing giant lists or giant files. And they're going to start adding this Project Nucleus technology to OneDrive and probably to other web apps to turn them into PWAs. So yeah, PWAs are still alive and they're coming thanks to Project Nucleus.
Woohoo! And now, speaking of woohoo, let's talk about a beer pick of the week.
Yes. So 2 weeks ago, I made my beer pick, something from Founders called KBS Espresso. Remember, I was talking about it and saying it's a bourbon barrel aged beer that tastes like cold brew coffee because it's so coffee-ish. Well, they have other variants of this beer. And for Thanksgiving, I decided to try one called Cinnamon Vanilla Cocoa. KBS Cinnamon Vanilla Cocoa. So I thought this is either going to be fantastic or it's going to be terrible, right? Because it's got all these things in a bourbon barrel aged beer like vanilla and cinnamon. I'm like, it could work maybe. I don't know. Well, I'm here to report it was delicious. was fantastic. I liked it even better than the plain espresso one, but you have to love cinnamon to love this beer because it's very big on the cinnamon. But the cinnamon and the bourbon kind of work together, I thought, and the vanilla cocoa was a little more muted, but still there. If you want a dessert beer that is very high in alcohol, it's 12%, but if you want to just have it like a sipper, winter sipper, holiday sipper, dessert beer, I would very highly recommend the cinnamon vanilla cocoa version of KBS.
Wow.
Mashed potato in our chat room says, sounds like a Linux desktop environment. Cinnamon vanilla cocoa.
It kind of does, right?
Yeah, it does. That's good.
Wow. Every time you do these, I just want to run out and get one.
Ant was asking me at Thanksgiving, what are you going to have for Thanksgiving? And I'm like, I showed him this and he's like, oh my.
Oh my. Well, he's a Scotch drinker. I don't know if
he is, but I think he likes bourbon too, doesn't he?
Yeah, sure. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
This is bourbon barrels.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Scotch perfected.
Maybe.
He says,
yes,
non-pretentiously.
You know, bourbon.
You know, Leo.
Yes, Paul Thurrott there. He's at Thurrott.com. That's his little website, as he calls it. He also has his book, his field guide to Windows 10. It's available at leanpub.com. Any ETA on the Windows 11 version?
Well, yeah. So, no. So I think I'm going to try to time it to when it's not so terrible. I'm just afraid of, I don't want to have to go back and keep updating stuff I already did because I feel like so much of it's going to change.
Yeah, that's a good thinking.
So I'm going to, it will be some number of months, but it will be.
For the 9%.
The first, exactly.
The
first half of next year, probably. Yeah. Certainly, I should say.
Mary Jo Foley is writing about Microsoft all the time at allaboutmicrosoft.com, her ZDNet blog. Always a pleasure. I hope you both had a good Thanksgiving. I kind of know you did because I saw the pictures. Especially one of Sriracha with his big belly just hanging out after his turkey there.
Doing his Al Bundy thing. I'm surprised he didn't have like a hand inside his waistband.
He should
have. We will be back next week. When is our Chris Cap? It's 2 weeks from now, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks. The 15th, I think.
Okay.
Right?
So that's something you want to prepare for, folks. The CMO of Microsoft stopping by. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. We do this show Wednesdays, if Leo gets here on time, at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, at 1900 UTC. You can watch live at live.twit.tv. After the fact, you can get on-demand versions at our website, twit.tv/WW, or there's a YouTube channel with all the videos. Of course, you could subscribe in any podcast client and get it automatically the minute it's available. If your podcast client allows reviews, please leave us a 5-star review. Tell the world about Paul and Mary Jo. You could say that Leo guy's no good, but Paul and Mary Jo now, they know their stuff. They know their stuff. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful week. See you next time on Windows Weekly.
If you find yourself talking to those virtual assistants in your house quite often, or maybe you can make your light turn on and off with the touch of a button, well, Smart Tech Today is the show for you. Join Matthew Casanelli and myself, Micah Sargent, every week as we talk all about smart stuff and the fun that comes along with it.